Yo, 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 Eddie Bravo Radio is back for one episode, maybe two, maybe three, maybe this is the last one. I'm not sure, but this one is going to be nuts. It's going to be super, super crazy, man. I finally decided, TJ, let's do it. Let's do one show, and let's do it on flat motherfucking Earth. And let me tell you my flat Earth story real quick. About 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, something like that. I forget the timeline, but it was about 2 years ago, year and a half ago. I'm on Joe Rogan's podcast, and he's trying to explain how dumb people are by bringing up flat Earth. He goes, dude, there's people that believe in flat Earth, and they think the sun is 3,000 miles away. And I remember thinking, wow, something like, man, they got to be super religious Christians that believe that. I mean, that's the most incredible thing ever, that there's people. They must be really like hardcore Bible thumpers. That's what I thought. Didn't think too much about them. Like, well, whatever, they could believe whatever they want. Didn't put any thought into it at all. And then a few months later, Joe Rogan brings it up again. He says, there's people that believe the earth is flat and the sun is 3,000 miles away. And I thought, wow, that must be like some kind of CIA psyop, like the new Scientology. You know what I mean? It's got to be something nutty like that, because how could anybody believe that the earth is flat? It's ridiculous. And then time goes by, and I'm in class, talking conspiracy theories with some of my students, and my boy Manny, who's a total conspiracy theorist, fully, like 100% awake. He's not like half awake. He looks at me and goes, hey, man, you ever look into flat earth? And I looked at him instantly, and I thought, wow, I can never believe anything that comes out of this guy's mouth again. I thought I lost a soldier. I couldn't believe it. I was like ashamed, like, fuck, man, don't ever bring that shit up around me again. It's embarrassing. You know what I mean? I thought you were my dog. I thought I lost a soldier. And then a few months later, another guy comes up to me and says, hey, man, you ever look into flat earth? And I said, I thought he was just the dumbest motherfucker ever for saying that. And I didn't say that. I just thought that. I said something like, man, that's got to be some kind of CIA operation. And he said, listen, man, I got a master's in engineering. Look into it. And we were arguing back and forth, because I had an iPhone that had that, that default picture of the globe. Every day I turned it in. If you don't turn it on and I see the globe, I'm like, there's no way anybody ever can convince me that the earth is flat. It's impossible. So we're arguing back and forth. And I went home to debunk him, because we were arguing, and I was like full debunker mode. I'm like, do you realize how dumb you are? So I get on the internet, and I'm looking. All I need is a picture of Earth from space. That's all I need. I don't care about your science this, your science that, your experiment this, and your shadow over here. Where's the fucking picture? The picture that I see every goddamn day on my iPhone. Where the fuck is it? So I'm looking, I go to Google, pictures of Earth from space, and boom, a bunch of CGI pictures show up. And you'd think by now, it's 2017, there'd be tens of thousands, at least tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of pictures of the Earth from space. There should be all sorts of epic shots of if you, I have this old moon picture with all these pictures of the moon that were all fake and shit, and there's a picture that they took from the moon of the Earth, and it's so perfect. You see the Earth, like it looks like it's the moon. They're on the moon, but there's the Earth. It's not the moon. It's so perfect, and they got this perfect picture of the entire planet, but it's been proven a fake. No one took credit for that picture. It's proven fake. Of course, it's fake. There's no video footage of all the video footage on the moon. There's no video footage of them. They're like on dune buggies and playing golf. They never, with a video camera, zoom up and look at the Earth. They never do that ever. They never. But there's that one picture, perfect picture. You see the Earth in the background. Come on, man. It's ridiculous. It's been proven a fake. Anyways, I digress. So I couldn't find any pictures. And right away, me, I'm 1,000,000% convinced the moon landings were faked. I'm not the only one. If you really, really look into it, I'm convinced 1,000,000% that we did not go. And when you find out that most of these pictures, these fake pictures, are coming from the NASA website, and immediately I thought, wait a minute, there's no fucking pictures of the Earth from space? Are you kidding me? And NASA's controlling all this shit, the same agency that faked the moon landing 6 times? I'm going to believe anything from them? And that was it right there. Once I found out, I didn't care about those goddamn experiments. You look in YouTube and everyone's talking about, oh, if you look at a shadow this right here, or, the curvature of the Earth, it should be 8 inches under the fucking water or whatever. I don't need to know any of that. I don't need to know any of that. All I need to know, where are the goddamn pictures of Earth from motherfucking space? And when you have all these debunking videos, these flat Earth debunking videos, and they're using all this, their version of science. Oh, it's, if the sun goes around this way and boom, boom, and in 90 degrees that way, and you could tell if you got someone in Australia, boom, if they look up, like, dude, where are the motherfucking pictures of Earth from space? Why are you changing the subject? We haven't gotten past that. What are you telling me that that's okay? We could just gloss over that? Oh, it's because the way they take the pic, they got an explanation. And they admit they're all CGI, except for one in 1972, which is fake. They have one picture. They say one is real, 1972. All the rest are CGI. Oh, because the satellites are taking strips of the Earth, and then they put them together, and then an artist puts it together, and then, because it's the strips and the camera's too close. Like, where are the fucking pictures of Earth from space? I want to see a picture. I want to see tens of thousands of them. I want to see fucking the sun over here and the moon over there. People should have posters and shit. All over the world, people should have these epic pictures of the Earth from space with the moon over here and the sun over there and the planets. There's none. I used to be one of those guys that thought, I thought I knew a lot about space because I watched them goddamn the space DVDs, stacks of them. BBC Space, Volume 1 through 12, the Universe Complete series. I watched all that shit. Every now and then, I'm thinking, I'm a grown-ass man watching that shit. Every now and then, I'm like, it is kind of weird that it's like all CGI. I mean, I'm not that stupid. This ain't a real footage of a super hypernova or anything. But then I forget about it, and then I'd go on. And then now, when you sit there and think about it, like, holy shit, everything from space is CGI? What the fuck? I'm not saying the Earth is flat. I am not saying the Earth is flat. There are no pictures of the flat Earth from space. Then I'll believe it's flat. I believe nobody's too sure of what the fuck we're on. And I'm open to hear more about, what guys like Eric Dubay are saying, our guest tonight. But before we get to Eric Dubay, I want to introduce Crone Gracie, ladies and gentlemen. Superstar, BJJ, black belt, son of Hickson Gracie, MMA fighter, fucking people up and rising. He's rising to the top. And yesterday, I get a call from Crone. And he said, hey, man, I see what you're doing. You're coming out. And I'm like, I'm not totally coming out. I'm making it clear. I don't know that the Earth is flat. I need to see pictures from fucking space. Show me some pictures of Earth from space. You got all these goddamn satellites. You're spending billions and billions of motherfucking dollars. All this goddamn money. What do we have to show for it? The space shuttles, would you trash them? Oh, the Saturn V rocket technology that took you to the moon, supposedly 6 times, you trashed that shit? It doesn't work no more? You got to the moon 6 fucking times, and then you trashed everything? And all the raw footage of the film and the audio, you trashed that shit? A retarded 12-year-old detective from Idaho will say, there's something fucking up with that shit. Come on. It's ridiculous. There's no footage left. It got stolen. I don't even know what telemetry data is, but apparently it has something to do with the records and the data of the moon missions. Apparently they're lost. They're stolen. They're gone. All the pictures and video we see of space are CGI. They faked the moon missions. Hey, I'm curious as to see. I'm interested in finding out what the fuck we're on. I don't know what we're on, but I want to know what the heck. I'm curious. And Crone, he called me up and he didn't ask me to be on the podcast. I asked him. You know, he's totally into finding out the truth too. And he's totally distrusting of NASA and government science. You know, that's all it really comes down to. I mean, a conspiracy theorist is someone who doesn't trust the government. We don't trust what they're saying, and most scientists are government scientists. If the science is coming from the government, NASA scientists, that's government. NIST, that's government. Most scientists, they're all like trying to get like funding and grants and all sorts of shit. Crone, tell me your flat Earth story.
I mean, before I even get into flat Earth, I think it's important to start at why I started thinking. Because in my life, you know, I was a little kid, you know, I have to train jiu-jitsu and I have this image and I have this family and all these things I got to do. So I chose to fight. I chose to do jiu-jitsu. And as an athlete and as an artist and as a martial artist, there's only one truth. You know, it either works or it doesn't work. So I train jiu-jitsu, and when something doesn't work, you know, you have to be honest with yourself to know that it doesn't work, and then to be like, okay, let me find something that does work, and let me find the truth, because only the truth is going to solve my problems. Lying to myself and telling myself things that are not true just to make myself feel good about something is only going to build up later. So I have like my personality has always been like to find the truth with jiu-jitsu, find the truth, what really works, what really is true. And then I think just naturally that kind of just trickled away into my whole life. And I always kind of try to see through the bullshit and see through the games. But I was never really into conspiracy theories and like into that kind of stuff, or into being like protecting the animals or all this stuff. You know, as a kid, I was like, fuck all that shit. It's all bullshit. I just got to do jiu-jitsu. I just got to fight. I just got to put my energy into this. And then as I started to fight more MMA, where I kind of stopped teaching so much at the gym and started putting less time into teaching, and I was focusing more on training and more on fighting and more on like traveling and go see Nick and Nate, 6 hours. Then you go to San Francisco, an hour and a half. So I spent a lot of time on my own, a lot of time driving, a lot of time to think. And I started to like, I don't know what, I think the first thing that got me that got me questioning stuff, first my friend Murph, he told me about the chemtrails like years and years ago. And I was like, this is some bullshit. Are you kidding me? They're throwing fucking shit in the sky. I was like, no. And then he kind of broke it down and everything. And I was like, oh shit, this shit might be real. And then the one that really did it for me was when I found out they put fluoride in the water. And then I was like, I can't believe they would do that they would put fluoride in the water and like purposely try to like calcify your pineal gland. So once I realized that it was on purpose, that it wasn't an accident, then I started to ask questions about everything. I went through this fucking wormhole of all this shit, and you get depressed to learn about how fucked up the world is and learning about all this shit. But I'm at a point now where I'm at ease with it, because the only thing I can do is try to make it better. It's already fucked up, but it's like a good fucked up. It's like an interesting game we play, because the world's so fucked up, and it's like now we have our own roles. Who's gonna try to save the world? Who's gonna try to destroy the world? Who's gonna not do shit, right? Who's just gonna be there? So I've chosen to fight for something that I think is bigger than the Gracie family, bigger than MMA. I'm trying to fight for the truth for the next generation, so my nephew and the next generation has something to live. So after a lot of fucking conspiracies and shit and time, I got to the flat earth, and I was like, this is some bullshit. And then looking into it more, I believed in it for a while. I was like, oh, fuck, this might be true. And then I was like, nah, fuck that. That's not bullshit. I can't believe in this. And then I got back to it, and I started researching. I actually seen a lot of your stuff, Eric. I've been watching a lot of your videos for a long time. I'm a big fan. But after a while, I realized it was true. And from what I've collected in the universe, from what I've seen, I think there's more things proving me that the Earth is flat than that it's spinning at 1,000,000 miles per hour, or actually 666 miles per hour, which is fucking interesting. And that we don't, like, it always was like crazy. Like, man, you're telling me that we're spinning, and then we're spinning around the sun, and the sun is shooting down this fucking shit, and we're just sitting here chilling on this podcast, like no big deal. It's like, doop, doop, doop. Like, that's always been crazy to me. So I never, it was like just a baffling thing to try to grasp. And then, so now I'm like, I understand. I have like things that I really believe that the Earth is flat, more so than the Earth is round. And so I'm like that. I'm at that stage where I don't want to be the one to like be like, oh, you guys have to fucking believe the Earth is flat, blah, blah, because that doesn't do anything either. I think that we all just need to understand that the more we spark the truth, it takes time, you know, to get to somewhere where the things that I know, it takes time. It doesn't mean that it won't happen. It just takes time. So it's like, first you got to get into the moon landing. If you don't believe in that, then you got to research that.
Yeah, that's the first one. Because if you research the moon landings and you believe we still went, then you need to, there might be Game of Thrones reruns tonight. You are not going to enjoy this podcast. Because but just because you believe that the moon landings were hoax doesn't mean you're going to, that's a big leap from the moon hoax to flat Earth. That's huge. Most conspiracy theorists think the flat Earth thing is not true. It's for sure. It's like a CIA psyop. That's what. Yeah. There's people think that Eric is a CIA shill and trying to spread disinformation. TJ, tell me you are not a flat earther, but give me your story.
But I got questions too before we get into. I got questions for Eric too, because there is some questions that I do have. So we'll get back to that later. But I'm not like. I look at what we have, and from what we have, from what information I have, I'm more on the side of flat Earth. But I still got questions, and I still am a student of the truth. And until somebody proves me differently, I believe in what the chips I've collected.
DJ?
I mean, here's the thing that's interesting about this whole flat Earth thing. I believe that the Earth is round. I've been told that forever. I have no reason really to believe otherwise, but I've believed a lot of things over, the last 33 years that I've been alive, and a lot of those things have been proven not to be exactly accurate. When I was a kid, and I don't want to get all crazy, but like marijuana was treated like heroin. You know what I mean? And now you have people out there that are saying the same thing, that it actually is heroin, which is crazy. But we have state governments that are regulating marijuana, and the reason I bring up marijuana is because like it was such a bad thing for the longest time, and now it's helping local economies, and it's. I mean, how many states is it legalized in? It's like 2 for sure recreationally already in the books.
I think 5 or 6.
Right, but now I mean California, it's pretty much there. Yeah. It's not on the books yet per se, but. Like, my point is like we have this war on drugs, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, never mind. We're okay with it now. We're gonna make money and tax it, etc. It's just I'm using that as a example of taking a big leap from one stance to another, and that's different. But my point is, we are told for the longest time things are a certain way, and then we find out that the stance is softened or just to me, like, you need to question things. Now, again, I think that the Earth is round. I have a bunch of questions, and obviously you're going to bring Eric on, and we can ask him because he's going to make some points, and I'm going to write down some more questions. But for me, I think that if you get like animated to the point where you're like, you're stupid, you're dumb, you're delirious, you're crazy, why won't you just hear somebody out first? Do you know what I mean? Like, why would you not hear somebody out? And what's weird about this one is it's sweeping the nation. Like, it's sweeping the world. Like, so many people. Like, I think about, like, conspiracy theories. Flat Earth, to me, would be the most unlikely one. Look up at the sky. The moon, that's round. At least it looks round to me here. I mean, I'm curious. Does Eric think that the moon is flat? Does Eric think that the everything?
There's a lot of questions.
Right.
There's a lot of questions.
And my point is like, you're doing yourself a disservice if you won't just ask some questions to anything. Is the sky blue? What is blue? Is your blue my blue, or is it green?
Not sure.
But you know what I mean? Like, don't ever be set in your ways about anything.
Yeah. My co-host is my best friend since I was 16. We moved to Hollywood together to be rock stars. Obviously, it failed. His name is James Watson. James, we never really talked about flat Earth at all. How are you feeling right now about it? Is it possible?
I want to hear everything before I dismiss something.
Okay.
I want to hear everything.
Okay. Do you think it's possible that, I mean, we were brought up with globes in school, and although we've never seen the Earth from space, we've got fake pictures. Most space footage of space documentaries are CGI cartoons. To me, that's just the giant red flag right there, man. You got all these telescopes and billions of dollars. Just seems like a scam. Like they're just scamming money. Everything is just an easy scam. It's like they make way more money. They just faked it than actually went. Like maybe they were just lazy. You know what I mean? Like, shit, can we just fake this shit? People are going to die. I mean, we could get there, but damn, people are going to die. Why don't we just fake it and keep all the money? It's a way better plan. Anyways, I'm going to introduce our guest. This is really what it's all about. He's definitely one of the top experts when it comes to breaking it all down, breaking NASA down, and breaking the heliocentric model. I want to introduce Eric DUBAY. Now, Eric, explain the timeline of a flat Earth, and when and how and why did we go? It was, like you said, it was flat Earth for forever, and then we switched. It was Copernicus, right? We switched, and then talk about, because most people think, only dumb people think the Earth was flat. When back then, correct me if I'm mistaken, but there was like the philosophers of the time and the scientists of the time. They were going back and forth with the flat Earth, the geocentric model versus the heliocentric model. It wasn't like there was any proof of the heliocentric model. Just somehow explain the timeline.
Yeah, I've got the timeline, the history of flat Earth on my channel. You can watch that extrapolated completely. But for now, quickly, nobody thought the Earth was a spinning ball until 500 BC or so, when Pythagoras came up with it. And for the next few hundred years, other Greek philosophers toyed with the idea and wrote about it. Eratosthenes, Plato, and Aristotle. And then it disappeared for another 2,000 years. Nobody talked about it. Nobody believed it. There's no record of anyone writing books about it, anything like this, until 1543, when Copernicus came out with his book. And then suddenly it became a big topic, and with Kepler and Galileo and some of these other people coming in, giving their quote-unquote proofs for the spinning ball Earth, it slowly but surely became the mainstream model. Up until about the 1800s, when actually there was a flat Earth resurgence, when a bunch of flat Earth scientists started doing experiments and printing books and newspapers and other things, doing lectures. And so it was a hot topic of debate around the turn of the 19th century. And then, of course, with Einstein's relativity theory, which is a philosophy that basically banishes everything to ultimate relativity. So there can't be any motionless thing in the universe, like they said the Earth was. And then eventually you get into NASA with the moon landings. And nowadays they've got all these fake CGI pictures we were talking about, which everyone believes are real. So most everybody thinks that the Earth is a spinning ball now. And it's really just been a long-term propaganda campaign over the past 500 years, which, when you look into it, has been spurred by and maintained by Freemasons. Freemasonry, the oldest and largest secret society in the world, with over 5 million members in almost every country in the world. You find that Copernicus and Newton and Galileo, right up until modern day, the astronauts, almost every astronaut that claims to have gone into outer space or walked on the moon is publicly known as a Freemason. So it's the same group of people who's been promoting this idea for the past 500 years. So that's another red flag, as Eddie was talking about. There's so many red flags when you find out that the original moon landing footage has all been erased. They can't find it. And the telemetry data can't find that. Things that would actually confirm these things to be true. They can't find those. You know, the moon rocks have now come out to be fake. When you look into these things, it's completely obvious, as Eddie said, that the moon landing is a complete hoax. And then you got to ask, well, why would they do that? And when you look at the history of flat Earth, and you see that the moon landing hoax allowed them to hypothetically get far enough away from their ball Earth to take a picture of it, that is the main reason for the moon landing hoax, is to perpetuate, to continue to propagandize with this spinning ball, Big Bang evolution cosmology that they've come up with, where you're nothing, you're just a speck of dust in an infinite universe that came about from a random Big Bang accident with no consciousness or life involved, and then suddenly, somehow, out of nothing, consciousness, life, diversity, nature, everything that you see around you just came into existence through slow evolution of cold, hard matter, and then somehow consciousness and life comes into it. So they have this whole materialist philosophy that they've been trying to inculcate the world into, and the spinning ball Earth is just part of it. As I'm saying, it gets into evolution and Big Bang and all this other crap. And the idea is to make you believe, well, first of all, the idea is to have you stop trusting your own senses, your own experiments and experience, and to instead trust these authority figures who are giving you information, giving you pictures and videos and saying, this is the truth, trust us, instead of trusting yourself, which using your own devices and your own methods, it's easy to prove that the Earth is not a spinning ball. I have a book called 200 Proofs the Earth is Not a Spinning Ball. Everyone can check out. And you can see for yourself. I mean, NASA doesn't even claim to have 200 proofs that we live on a spinning ball. The most you'll ever be able to find is 10. They've never felt the need to try to come up with more than 10 supposed proofs that you live on a spinning ball. And in my book, I debunk all 10 of those, and I give you 200 of the opposite reasons why we're obviously not moving. We're motionless, just as you said. We're sitting here doing this podcast. You don't feel like you're spinning around an axis at 1,000 miles per hour around the sun at 66,600 miles per hour, while the sun is also moving. So it's not the heliocentric theory anymore. Now it's the acentric theory, because they don't know what the center of the universe is. So the sun is also traveling 500,000 miles per hour around the Milky Way galaxy, and the Milky Way galaxy itself is shooting millions of miles per hour off from that Big Bang that they say happened 14.7 billion years ago. They know exactly how long ago it happened too. They can make up these huge distances to the stars and these huge numbers of how far things are and how these timelines, because it's bullshit, because they just make it up. It's been getting longer and longer as they go. If you look at Copernicus's figure for how far away the sun supposedly was in his model, it was only a bit more than 3 million miles away. But then you go to Newton and it was up to 26 million, and you keep going. At one time it was over 104 million, and then they've brought it back down to 93 million right now. That's where we're at now. But flat earthers throughout the centuries, as Eddie said, have measured using sextants and plane trigonometry from different points all over the plane, and found out that the sun is very close and very small. It's like a spotlight that illuminates over the plane. About 3,000 miles above us, about 30 miles in diameter is what you get from using these actual measurements that we can do without having to trust these random scientists and their random theories. I mean, do you know how they say that they come up with the distances to the stars? The stars, they figure out how far away they are by taking a star up to a little color chart and determining how blue it is or how red it is. And they say, oh, it's blue shifting. It's blue shifting at this rate, so we know that it's this many light years away from us. A light year is another Star Trek term they came up with to make things that are trillions and trillions and trillions of miles away, supposedly, sound more plausible. So again, they just... It's magic, you know. Oh, it's 10 trillion light years away, and we know because of the gradient of the blue on the redshift on our little color scale. Yet you can, with a telescope or with a zoom camera, with your own eyes, look at any star any night and notice every single color of the rainbow and watch it fluctuate through all colors like a pulsating disco ball. So for them to claim that they're able to gauge star distances based on color, this is just par for the course of the kind of pseudoscience that they feed you with a capital S, calling it science.
I'm already convinced. So I mean, since since I already have done my research and I already get past this point of, I do believe the Earth is somewhat flat, from what we can see. But I have a couple questions. One, so the stars are just lights. They're not. They're just like when you look through telescopes. Because people say, when I start talking about this, they're like, wait, when I look through a telescope, I can see the Saturn, the rim on the Saturn thing. And so explain to the people what they are looking through the telescope, or if those photos on the internet are not even real photos. Can you look through a telescope and see the rim around Saturn?
There's a halo and a light around the sky, so the world must be a spinning ball, is their argument. Yeah, you can see a little halo of light around Saturn in a telescope. But Saturn itself and all of the other wandering stars, which are now called planets, the ancients differentiated the stars only as fixed or wandering, because the fixed stars, you can see they maintain their relative positions to one another night after night, century after century. For thousands of years, Polaris has been exactly above the North Pole, and all of the other fixed stars revolve perfect circles around Polaris, staying in their constellations night after night. Yet supposedly we're spinning around the sun while the sun spins around the galaxy, and the galaxy shooting off through the universe at those speeds that I mentioned earlier. If that was actually the case, then the night sky would never be the same 2 nights in a row. You would never come back around, or if you did, it would be millions of years, whatever. You wouldn't be able to have constellations. You wouldn't be able to track these things the way that we are. The only way that you can do it is because we're not moving. Everything else over our heads, all those lights in the sky that look like they're moving over us, they're doing exactly what it looks like they're doing. They're moving over and around us. We're not moving. You look at the sun move over and around us, and then you see the moon come following a similar path at a similar speed. But NASA tells you that moon is rotating around us. But this Earth we stand on, is rotating around the sun. But you can see for yourself that that's not the case. Just like you can feel for yourself that we're not moving. Just like you can see that the horizon is perfectly flat. Just like you know that water always finds its level, and Earth is 70+% water. You know that water can't conform to the exterior of a shape. If you put a shape in some water, it doesn't show up on the outside. So how could the Earth be a sphere, or an oblate spheroid, or a pear, or whatever NASA has decided that it is these days? So when you look up at the stars or the planets, they're all just flashing little lights in the sky. Whether you use a telescope, your eyes, a zoom camera, what it doesn't look like is these CGI ball planets that you always get, like Eddie was talking about, from the Nova and the BBC documentaries, where you get these close-up, high-def detail of these ball planets up there. No matter how good of a telescope you look through, all you're going to see is a very plasmic, watery light, water mixed with light, flashing disco ball effect with all the different stars and planets. Now, to see that and to think, oh, well, that means I'm on a spinning ball, just makes it's a logical fallacy, first of all. And second of all, you can see that these things are not physical, tangible things that anyone would be able to land on. For instance, the moon, you can see blue right through it during a waxing and a waning cycle. Stars have been seen through the moon. You can see the blue of the sky or stars that are behind it. So how could it possibly be a solid object that people could land on when we can see through it for yourself? Anytime the moon is in your vantage point during an afternoon, you're going to be able to see it. And the way that it fades off, it's nothing like a physical object that we know of. So you don't have to ask me if it's flat or is it round. I don't know what the moon is. I don't know what the sun is. But I do know that the Earth is flat. I have 200 plus proofs for that. I heard Eddie say that there's no proof the Earth is flat. I don't know. Well, I do know. I'm absolutely sure the Earth is flat. And if you check out my channel, check out my websites, I've proven it over and over and over again. It's the one thing you can know for sure in this lifetime, is that the Earth is absolutely flat and motionless. It is the most easily proven conspiracy, and that's why it's taking the world by storm, as one of the other panelists said earlier, is because it's so easily proven. It's not like the JFK assassination, where you could, like Eddie was saying, you could spend your whole life trying to look into that and trying to figure out the ins and outs of it. And it's easy to find out that that was a conspiracy, that it is not the way that they told us it was. But to find out exactly what it is, that's difficult. But with the flat Earth, it's not. It's simple. It's here every day. You can perform experiments yourself anytime you want to. People are doing it every day. There's YouTubers, Facebookers, all over social media that are doing their own experiments, proving over and over again that the Earth is flat and motionless. Meanwhile, NASA's running with their tail between their legs in damage control mode, trying to say that they've discovered gravitational waves and 7 new Earth-like planets to try and keep the sheeple in line. In reality, the world's waking up, and Eddie Bravo and you guys, Cron Gracie, it's great talking to you too. You guys are all legends. You guys are helping bring this out. Like you said, us martial artists here, we're truth warriors. We're more than just here to compete and win for the glory of making it first or whatever. How about actually getting the truth out? This is what's most important. I've scaled back on my martial arts training and teaching a lot so that I can do this. I think it's more important. I think this is the most important thing that I could be doing right now. I think this is the most important issue anyone can be talking about right now, because we've been lied to for 500 years. And when you get this out, it's like a balloon rising to the surface being held underwater for 500 years. Water's going to splash all over the place. And it's exactly what we need in this fucked up world that we live in, where they've been lying to us in school. The entire media is controlled. The governments are controlled. And it's all part of this system. And this easily proven conspiracy of the flat earth brings that all to the forefront so people can see clearly that we have been lied to. This shit's real. And so I'm, big kudos to you guys for doing what you're doing. It's difficult to get people with any sort of fame, any sort of following to come out about these things. Even people with no fame or following don't want to tell their friends and family, because your ego doesn't want to be that ego that has to deal with the fact that you're the idiot now saying the earth is flat and all your friends are going to make fun of you. Nobody wants to be in that position. None of us here wanted to be in that position. But
it takes a triple OG.
You know what? I've been just abused on the internet for so long that you can't hurt me no more. My skin is thick like bamboo.
I'm curious, real quick. So, like, if this is a conspiracy theory, like, why try to get everyone to believe that the Earth is round? That's my big hang up on this. Like, what is the benefit for, and who is it for the world to believe that we're on a round ball?
Well, nowadays, NASA gets $50 million a day for those fake CGI pictures that they give us. I mean, isn't that a good reason? $50 million of taxpayers' money being stolen so that we can get Hollywood in place.
Isn't that new, though? Like, the whole Earth being round, if it's a conspiracy, it's gone on for 50-plus years. Like, that's modern day why it makes sense, but why would it make sense back in the 60s?
Sure. Well, it makes sense going back as far as you want to, because if you want to control a population, do you think you go and you tell them exactly the truth about everything that's going on in the Earth that they're living in and how they came to be and what their place is in the cosmos? Do you think it's a good idea to tell them exactly what it is? Or would it be a better idea to tell them the exact friggin' opposite of what it is and make them believe that, so that it disempowers them, so that it turns you into the authority, so that all their information about space and the planets and cosmology and where we came from and where we might be going and who humanity really is comes from these few people: Neil deGrasse Tyson, Brian Cox. You get your little spokespeople, and they are now the purveyors of all truth off of this flat world that we live on, trying to tell us otherwise. So firstly, it sets up your Copernicus and your Newton and your Galileo and all of these Masons throughout history as being the saviors of science, as being the most trusted authorities, as being the initiators of Renaissance and starting this whole new way of correct thinking. So obviously, if you're going to control people, you have to lie to them. What's the biggest lie you could possibly lie to them about? This is it. But beyond that, I understand that people have to ask why, and it's perplexing. Oh, why would they do it? And you get caught there. But think of a detective coming upon a murder scene. Like I told you, I've got more than 200 proofs. You could spend days and days and days online seeing proof after proof, experiment after experiment, or you can just use your own eyes and experience and figure out that, of course, the Earth is flat and motionless. But you can do these things. But instead, what most people will do is they will wait until they can think of a motive that makes sense to them for why something like this could possibly happen before they will even take a minute to do some research about it. And I'm not saying this about you. I'm saying this about this general question that gets asked over and over again. A detective doesn't sit there at a crime scene covered in blood with corpses everywhere and say, I'm not sure if there was a murder here because I don't see the motive. What they do is they gather evidence and they figure out what is actually going on in the crime scene. And that's what I did, and that's what all flat earthers did. They bypassed their cognitive dissonance. They bypassed their what they thought they knew long enough to look at the evidence, not to look at a motive. We can look at that later. But look at the evidence first. If a lot of you people listening now are caught up in this, I can't see why they would, what would be the motive for doing this lie? Bypass that for a second and look at the evidence, because the evidence is there that they have lied. We can worry about why later. Let's look at the evidence.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now I have a question for you. What do you think about Admiral General E. Byrd?
As in, what do you mean?
As in, like, the idea that he saw more land on the other side of Antarctica.
Yeah, well, he said that there was more land past Antarctica in places that we hadn't discovered when he went down there. He said that on national television, and that there was more resources. And then suddenly after he made these claims, there was an Antarctic treaty between all these countries, and suddenly nobody's able to explore Antarctica anymore. After this big-name military guy comes out on national television saying that there's more land and more resources, suddenly it's closed off from the public. And the only way that people can go there now is on these pre-approved tourist tours that they have, where you go and pet a penguin and touch the little barbershop pole they've called the South Pole and be on your way home. But they don't allow independent exploration of Antarctica, so we can actually see this, whether Admiral Byrd was telling us the truth when he said that there was another continent on the other side of Antarctica the size of America. I don't know. I haven't been there. Yeah. Just like people say, is it an infinite plane? Is there an edge? Is it a dome? Is there a barrier? I don't know. They won't let us go.
Before we get any further, let's can we have him talk and pull up the flat Earth model at the same time so people know, because you know what I'm talking about? They need to see what it actually looks like, because people are thinking right now, wait a minute, how does the sun go around a flat Earth? Does the sun go under it? That's the main thing people get confused on, is what the flat Earth model really is.
Yeah, give me a second here. Let me do some Skype finagling here, and we'll get that rocking.
I got one more question before I forget it. This has been a question that I thought about, because I'm looking up at the moon, and on the flat Earth model, it's like the sun and the moon, they like circle around. Whoa.
You're good.
Hello?
You're good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. So on the flat Earth model, the sun and the moon, they kind of like circle like this around inside this dome. And so I don't understand how I can see the moon at night, which is what it's supposed to be if it's, traveling with the sun. And then I can see it also in the day. And sometimes I see it twice. I see it in the day and at night. So how does that happen?
Well, we got to pull up that model first. Okay, here we go. Okay, if we could show that to the audience while he explains. This is just the basic model. We're not saying you agree with this one. There's all these different models, but this is the basic one. Can you see this, Eric? Yeah, that's showing the sun and the moon going around around the plane in a clockwise, right? Yeah, you could just leave that and let him talk. Yeah. It looks like they're around the same speed, but that's the basic idea right there. Basically, it looks like the entire Earth is inside of a crater filled with water, and there's some continents popping out. That was fine right there, TJ. Right there, that one's good. And then it's surrounded, and all the water's being held, and it's like we're in a crater, right? That's the basic idea, right, Eric?
Yeah, the basic model would be you got to have water, has to be contained, so you can see Antarctica as an ice wall that contains all of the oceans, and beyond that we don't know. The North Pole is the very middle. and Polaris, the pole star, is right over the North Pole, and the continents are all in a circular shape around that. So to circumnavigate the flat Earth is just to go in a circle around the North Pole. So if your right shoulder is at Polaris the whole time, you'll eventually make a complete circumnavigation of Earth and come back to where you were, going clockwise, or if it's on your left side, going the other way. And this is how navigation was done back in the day. What's never been done is a north-south circumnavigation, which, it's impossible to do on a ball. You go around like this on the flat plane we live on. It's impossible to come up around the underside. Like I said, nobody knows what's on the underside. In the ball model, they claim that there's a molten core, and then there's an outer mantle and an inner mantle and a crust, outer crust and an inner crust. They've got all these layers, supposedly, of the ball Earth that they teach us in school. Yet in reality, the Russian Kola Ultra Deep, which is the largest drilling operation in history, tried drilling down into the Earth, spent 30, 40 years doing it, and they were only able to get to 8 miles down, which is not even through the outer crust that they talk about in their models. So they don't know that there's an inner crust and a molten metal core and all this other crap that they go on about. It's completely hypothetical. They just put it in the textbooks and then everybody parrots it. But the reason you got to do it is if you're on a ball and you know that there's magnetic north, you got to come up with some excuse for it. So they say that there's magma somehow turning into magnetism, which never happens in the real world. And that causes the north and south poles to constantly move, so we can never identify where they actually are. This is a convenient excuse for why you can't go to their ceremonial South Pole with a compass in your hand and walk 360 degrees and have north be straight ahead of you. They give their excuse that, it's constantly moving because of the magnetic core and all this crap. But the North Pole doesn't move. The magnetic, everything is pointing towards it, and a compass only works on a flat plane. Imagine if you were in Australia or somewhere else, hanging upside down, as they tell you, on a ball, holding your compass flat, and it points straight ahead of you at north. Wouldn't north be up in outer space? How could north possibly work on a compass? This is just one of many, many proofs that the Earth is flat and motionless, just as it appears, just as we know. And the model you may be looking at, watching the sun and the moon going over them, they do circle around us in that way, but the sun is slightly faster than the moon. The moon takes about 25 hours, or the sun takes 24, and the moon's time changes about 10 minutes over its cycle. So they will pass each other, and you will see the moon during the afternoon, or even during the morning sometimes because of this. And so that's the actual model. They don't. A lot of the models, the computer models people have made, have them going perfectly opposite, and it's not perfectly opposite. They pass.
So basically, in the flat Earth model, it's like we're in a crater and the North Pole's in the center, and there's got to be some kind of like powerful magnetism going on for compasses to always point to the center of this plane that we're on, right? I mean, and then coincidentally, the North Star is right above it, and all the stars and all those lights are going around Polaris, the North Pole star. So there's definitely some magnetism going on in the center of this flat plane, and it if you believe that, then you'd have to believe that the sun is like some electromagnetic ball of heat that is just going around this magnetic center. And the same thing with the moon. The moon must be this like light object or something, right? Because the one thing before I got into flat Earth at all, before I started, for years, the moon baffled me when they would say that the moon doesn't spin. The moon doesn't spin because we were taught that the Earth spins on its axis, and we know what a globe looks like, and you take that globe and you spin it. So you imagine that's what the Earth is, some spinning globe just floating in space. But the moon doesn't have an axis, and like mainstream science says the moon, we only see one side, we'll never see the other side. So that baffles me. Like, how is that even possible? I mean, shouldn't it kind of spin a little bit? But mainstream science will say it's, in layman's term, it's kind of like you're facing somebody, you're looking at someone, you guys are standing in front of each other, and then you hold hands, and then you start spinning. That's how the sun is in relation to the Earth. And I could never wrap my brain around the moon and how we only see one side and we only see the face. It's hard to even understand it now.
Well, it's just more bullshit. They tell you that the moon is traveling this way at the exact opposite speed that the Earth travels this way, so it perfectly cancels out the motion so that we only ever see the exact same face no matter where or when we are on the Earth. But the reality is that the Earth is a flat plane, the moon is rotating around it in this style, and it actually turns this way as it rotates. It's not a ball turning the way that they say it is, but imagine a wheel, like a wagon wheel turned on its side, turning around this way. And this is why one of the ball proofs is that in the southern hemisphere, you can photograph the moon and it's upside down, and in the northern hemisphere, you photograph it and it's right side up. Therefore, the Earth is a ball. But again, it all depends on where and when you photograph the moon. I can show you on IFRS, the International Flat Earth Research Society. We've taken pictures of the moon at any and all inclinations of 360 degrees. So it's turning, but it's turning this direction. And we never see other faces. If it was a ball, someone from the southern hemisphere versus the North Pole versus mid-latitudes, we should see slightly different faces of the moon from those vantage points, but you always see the same rabbit or the same man on the moon, whatever you want to call it. Those same features are always there. So it lends credence to the idea that the moon is hovering over and around us as it is in the flat Earth model, and not a ball that perfectly spins opposite the ball Earth so that we can never see it. I mean, think about it. The second law of thermodynamics, entropy, states that any object in motion over time through friction and resistance is slowly going to slow down. So both the moon and the sun should be slowing down. The days should not be 24 hours. We should be able to calculate this. And there's plenty of drag and resistance in the atmosphere, so I don't see why they can hold up a theory that the Earth and the moon and the sun and all their crap spins at a perfectly uniform velocity, yet it's never changed whatsoever, yet their own laws of thermodynamics say that that's completely impossible. So their own science is at odds with itself.
That's incredible. Now, explain gravity.
Gravity. So gravity is a total subterfuge of the natural laws of density. So people want you to believe that before Isaac Newton lived and an apple dropped on his head, nobody in the world had ever thought of or been able to explain why stuff falls down. The reason that objects fall down is because they are denser than the medium that they are in. And the reason that an object would rise up is because that object is less dense than the medium it is in. So, for instance, that's why a raindrop falls down through the air and an air bubble rises up in the water. That's why a rock would fall down, but a helium balloon would rise up. It's not because gravity has an affinity for rocks and doesn't like balloons. It's because of density. It's all because of relative density. If you take a deep breath and you submerge yourself in water, you'll stay at the surface because you've just changed the density of your body. And if you exhale that breath, you're going to start to sink because you've just changed the density of your body. Gravity didn't just decide that it's got more of an affinity now and it's going to start sucking you down to the bottom of the ocean. All about density. So gravity is just complete bullshit that Isaac Newton made up so that Copernicus's spinning ball model would make any sense. And they said, oh, well, the reason things fall down is because there's this sucking force that pulls you to the center of massive objects. And of course, if that was the case, then we would be like magnetized to the Earth, and just stepping your foot off of the Earth would be like taking a heavy magnet off of a refrigerator, and stepping back would be like putting it back down again. And of course, they don't have a single example of any mass, by virtue of its mass alone, causing some other smaller mass to spin circles around or to stick to that mass because of its gravity. They say gravity just spontaneously happens when something's massive enough, and then non-massive things will either start spinning around it, like the planets, if that's what they want it to do, or they'll stick to it, like people, buildings, and the oceans, if that's what they want it to do. So gravity's their mythical magic force that causes us to stick to the mythical magic spinning ball Earth, when in reality, it's simple science. The natural physics of density and buoyancy determine that heavy things fall down and light things rise up. And they've been teaching us this crap in school since we're like 7 years old, so that we'll believe that oceans and buildings and people in Australia won't fall off the bottom of a ball.
Ooh, that was a pretty good explanation. Now, what about Einstein's theory of relativity? How do you see that?
So, like I said, relativity came up when the flat Earth movement was starting to grow at the turn of the century. Everyone was turning to flat Earth, and so they were in scramble mode trying to figure a way to get everybody back in their fantasy worldview. And so they came up with this philosophical idea of relativity, which banishes any non-moving object to obscurity, so that they say everything's moving, the Earth is moving, the stars are moving, the sun's moving, everything's moving, and that motion is all relative. So you can't say anything is stationary, and you can't even say anything is central. That's when they got rid of the heliocentric theory too. Oh, we don't know if that's the center. So relativity is just another philosophical subterfuge to get people to disbelieve their own senses and start to think that, hey man, it's all relative. It's like everything's moving, so you don't know if you're moving. You wouldn't feel it. That's why you hear from all these people like, you think it's motionless because you can't feel the motion, stupid. Like, it's so stupid to believe your own common sense. But that's what they've done. They've made it ridiculous to believe your own common sense, because we've all been taught since we were little children that, of course, that we're moving around at thousands of miles per hour. So relativity was just the next step, and just like NASA, the moon landing hoax was the next step. Shortly after that, they got to keep. Well, nowadays, like I said, gravitational waves apparently they found in 7 new Earth-like planets they just found last week. They have to come up with their damage control nonsense to keep spinning the fairy tales so that the entranced sheeple won't wake up to the flat Earth truth. And they've been doing it for 500 years. Relativity is just yet another step along that path of damage control to try and prevent people from understanding the truth.
Yeah, I think that for me, my life is like really big on intuition and how I feel and what I sense. I'm kind of a sensitive person, so I trust my feelings and my intuition over anything. And right off the bat, I don't think that the Earth is spinning. It doesn't feel like we're spinning, and that's just off of my intuition, no science behind it. And when I go up in a plane and I go really high, I look out and it looks all flat. And one thing that I've been thinking about recently that I kind of started to feel, I didn't realize before, is when the sun is at 12 o'clock and it's midday, the sun is blazing hot. And then at 6 o'clock, the sun is already not hot as much. So if the sun was so far away, it shouldn't change temperatures off a little like churn. You just churn a little bit. Now it's like a lot different of a temperature. It's a lot different of the rays. So I think that means that the sun is a lot closer, because if it was so far away, one, it would turn black immediately, but it doesn't. It goes to sunset and it goes to like light out, but no sun. And then so it's like this process of like almost the sun going further away from you, because I can feel it. I can feel it on my skin when I run at 12 o'clock in the day, or when I run at 5 o'clock. I'm like, fuck, 5 o'clock is too late. I'm not getting enough sun. I need more sun in my life. So I think that my feeling has always been taking me to where I feel like it's true. And I'm like, man, this doesn't make any sense. Because one, I don't feel like we're spinning. I don't feel like when I go up in a plane that we're on a ball. When I go to Japan, I fly 10 hours. When I fly back, it's 9. It would be twice. It would be 5 hours to get there and then 20 hours to get back. It would be such a big difference in the time it takes to get to places if the Earth was spinning. But since it's not spinning, it's basically the same time. Imagine going to Australia and then coming back, it's the same time. It's like, wait, what about the fucking spin?
Eric, what do they claim is the proof that, and when did they technically prove that the Earth is spinning? Didn't it have something to do with pendulums or something?
We can't hear him.
But they've tried to claim that it does, including using pendulums. In the mid-1800s, a guy named Leon Foucault started swinging pendulums and putting little pins at the end, and he used a ball and socket joint so that the pendulum was able to swing in a circle, and claimed that that's the Earth moving underneath the pendulum. And nowadays in museums all over the world, this stupid trick is still being used, where they put a pendulum, and and the modern day ones are computer run. They're not even like real pendulums, but an actual pendulum, and it would all be determined based on how you start the motion. There's no way to not give some slight lateral bias at the beginning of starting a pendulum in motion. And so sometimes the pendulums would swing way too fast, sometimes they'd swing too slow, sometimes they'd swing the opposite direction, sometimes they wouldn't swing at all. But these pendulums are being used all over the world now as proof that the Earth is spinning underneath them.
You have another question?
Not at the moment.
Now, what TJ? That video I sent you that we were going to debunk. I sent you that YouTube link that we were going to debunk. Right? It's basically the top 10. What are the top 10 flat Earth debunkers say? What's the usual thing that they say? Like, there's no way the Earth is flat because the planets. What is the most popular one?
So, I mean, I'll go through a few of them. The ships over the horizon, they say that when a ship is receding away from you, the hull disappears before the masthead, and it slowly goes up like that, as though it's going over the curve of the Earth. And that was one of Aristotle's first proofs that they used for the ball Earth. That was before telescopes, binoculars, or zoom cameras existed. Nowadays, you can test that for yourself. You watch any ship going away from you until it completely goes over the curve beyond the horizon where you can't see it, and then you take your zoom instrument, and you will be able to zoom completely back on the ship, hull and all the way back into view, proving that when something disappears beyond the horizon, it hasn't sunk below the curvature of a convex sphere. It has simply gone beyond your perspective as far as the law of perspective allows. So just depending on the strength of your instruments, your height, and the conditions of the atmosphere while you're watching, you'll be able to see a shorter or further distance. And when the sun is going away from us, as Crone was saying, we're not spinning. It is literally going away from us. And just like a plane or anything else, it starts to go down on the horizon, down, 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 until it completely disappears. Now, those planes that are doing that are not about to crash into the Earth. They're not curving under the ball. Otherwise, you'd see the bottom of the plane. You don't see the bottom of clouds either. Clouds curving over. What you see is point perspective. Like any artist knows, everything converging to the one center point of wherever you're looking at that time. Just like in a narrow hallway, the edges, the sides come in to a point, the ceiling comes down to that point, and the floor rises up to that point. And that's just how our vision works. And that's why a boat going away from you seems to disappear over the curve of a ball. If you've been told it's a ball, then that's what you're going to believe. But if you get out a zoom camera and you zoom the entire thing back into focus, then you can see that's not what happened. And with the sun, as the sun is dipping down, you got to get a really good camera, but it can be done. And there are examples of this on YouTube. You can zoom it in, and the sun, which was either completely disappeared, half disappeared, you name it, on the horizon, will rise up on the horizon. The sun hasn't risen up. You've just changed your perspective by looking at it through a zoom camera and brought it back into focus. This is because it's moving away from you, just as we're talking about. So this is one of the arguments. They say that the shadow of the ball Earth is on the moon. On an eclipse, that's how we know that the Earth is a ball. First of all, you don't know that that's a shadow. All you see is that the moon is being covered up by something. And second of all, just that darkness happening doesn't send the sun and the moon both in the sky while an eclipse happens, which means they're not 180 degrees apart from each other, and the sun couldn't possibly be casting the Earth's shadow onto the moon. So you got to come up with a different explanation. ancient cultures throughout history have had an explanation. It was called Rahu, the black sun. And they said that there was a third body in the sky, which is a dark body, the same size as the sun and the moon, and it eclipses them. They lie to you and they say that the sun is 400 times larger than the moon and 400 times farther away, and that's why they look exactly the same size.
Yeah, that
just
was
like
crazy.
they say the moon turns at just the right rate so that the earth is turning and you don't see it. They have all of these convenient explanations to explain away your common sense like this. You can see for yourself that the sun and the moon are about the same size. You can see that they travel about the same path. Moving on, upside down, so you have no friggin' idea what is going on here. You have no idea what's important. You have no idea what science really is. You have no idea what truth really is. So you're an absolutely malleable, pliable slave, just like they want you to be. And that's the real reason. But it's really difficult to tell people who are just getting into this, and they want to know why. They want to know. They haven't even looked into the evidence yet. But when you do look into the evidence, you find out the truth. You're going to find out more and more that this is a total method of control of the world. It's world domination. The psychopathic desire for thousands of years, it's come to fruition. A group of psychopaths has made this happen. They do rule the world. That's a whole other subject that you can get into once you find out that you really have been lied to and who's doing it and why.
What is another truth or another point that
ball point that they bring up?
Yes,
So why
give me
the
another
Earth is a ball. A Coriolis effect. They say that storms in the other hemisphere rotate counterclockwise, and toilets in the north hemisphere rotate clockwise, and the other way in the south hemisphere. So you can flush your toilet, and that's proof that the Earth is spinning. But really it just depends on the shape of the basin and the way the water is entering it. So a sink or a toilet in the same household could spin opposite directions depending on how the water is coming into it. So and storms don't only spin clockwise in one hemisphere and only the other way. They do seem to show them the majority of time being that way to bolster their model. But you can find many examples of the opposite. And if there's an exception to the rule, then it's not a rule. And it can't be used as proof that the Earth is spinning because all these storms are supposedly spinning this way.
So what people tell me a lot of times when I start to talk about this, they're like, yeah, Cronin, all these facts, they might be true. But on a molecular level, you know, everything is round. They're like, oh, everything is round. Like when you go down to the atom, everything is round. And it makes sense to me, like, yeah, everything is round. But I don't think that the world is not necessarily round. I just think that what we live on is flat. So I'm just giving you a little idea if you guys can see here. So we all have eyes, right? Our eyes are the center of everything. You know, that when you look in somebody's eyes, you can read them. When you know, everybody has eyes. So it's like the opening for you in this world is your eyes. Everything is about the eye. And then the eye looks kind of like this in my drawing, right? It's an eye.
Yeah.
You got the shell of the eyelid.
Uh-huh.
Then you got the color, which is the line. Then you got whatever the fuck is holding it. So I believe that we are on a big eye. And this is the color, is where we live. We're in this dome over here. And whatever something's containing, or I would think is containing all this. And I don't know what's on the outside. There could be a bunch of eyes. There could be eyes all over the place in these little domes. But I think it's a pretty connective thing when you understand the color of the eye, how everybody has eyes, and how the eye is like the center of everything. Like we are the universe. We're living in a universe in their little eyes in this big eye. That's what I believe.
As for the balls, everything's balls. they say that the planets are balls. They're CGI fake images they show us are balls, just like atoms and electrons and protons and neutrons. They show us fake images of balls, and they say that this is what atoms look like. But even through an electron microscope, you don't see little balls flying around in a solar system the way that they tell us it does. So when people use fantasy to back up fantasy, it's pretty funny. They're like, oh, the atoms are balls, so the Earth is a ball. So you've never seen the Earth be a ball. You've never seen a planet be a ball. You've never seen an atom be a ball. But you're willing to take all of these fantasies at face value and say that it must be. Meanwhile, ignoring your own experience, which says that water always finds its level, whether it's in a glass, whether it's in a bathtub, whether it's in a swimming pool, whether it's in a lake, whether it's an ocean. Water is always level. That's why we use water as a leveling tool. Nowadays we have lasers, so you can check again, and the laser will level out over the water. The horizon is always flat. And not only is it flat, 360 degrees around you, no matter how high you rise, it rises with you. Because it's the law of perspective we were talking about, and not the curvature of a ball. If the horizon was the curvature of the ball Earth, as you've been taught, then as you rose above it, no matter how big that ball was, it could be 1,000,000 times bigger than they say the Earth is. If it's a ball, it will curve away from you. And as you rise up, you would have to tilt your head and look down further and further to be able to see that horizon. But you'll never look down to the horizon on our Earth. It will always rise up right with you. And as you turn around, it'll be 360 degrees flat and at eye level, unless you're recording with a GoPro camera, and then it will change to convex and concave depending on the dip and the tilt of the camera, because it's a wide-angle lens. This is what the Red Bull Dive used on their outside camera. At 128,000 feet, you can see the curve of the Earth, which was the exact same curve of the Earth. If you watch right from the liftoff, when they started, the Earth was already curving that exact amount because it's just a wide-angle lens. And then as they go up 128,000 feet, horizon's still there, and then the inside camera gives it away, which was not a wide-angle lens. As they opened the door, parallel, right at eye level, the horizon was totally flat. And then when they go to the outside camera, boom, curved just like that. It's complete camera trickery. This is how they get people to believe in the ball Earth, is just using GoPro cameras. Zero-G planes are these planes that do parabolic maneuvers. The Vomit Comet you might have heard of, where you're able to be weightless. This is how they fake inside shots of the ISS. Outside shots of the ISS, they fake in dark pools, like the Neutral Buoyancy Lab at NASA, where they admit that they practice for their spacewalks underwater. And people like Luca Parmitano have been sent to the emergency room when he was supposedly in outer space because water started leaking into his helmet. And so there had to be explanations to the hospital staff and his family and everyone else as to how that could friggin' be possible. Well, it's because outer space is underwater as far as exterior shots. Interior shots are done on zero-G planes and with green screens and wires. You can even see the harnesses they use to act like they're floating oftentimes in their longer ISS shots. So it's all camera trickery, Hollywood techniques that have got people believing in the spinning ball nowadays. Nowadays, most people don't even know the stuff we're talking about, the olden day proofs like the shadow on the moon and the ships disappearing over the horizon. If they see a fake picture, they're set. That's all it takes to dupe today's public.
One thing I've been wondering about lately about the moon missions is they were gone for supposedly 6 days or something like that. What is it, like 4 or 5 days? Right, Eric?
The first mission was 3 days.
I wonder, I want to know how they explain taking dumps in those suits. What if they had explosive and what? Is there a tube going in their ass? What is it? Are they wearing? They must be wearing diapers. Is that what they're doing?
Yeah, they claim in diapers. I think
they have to wear diapers, right? Can you imagine having to take a dump on the moon? How you gonna?
Man,
and it's got to stink. I mean, there's no way. It's got to be some airtight diaper or something, right?
You got to look at the picture of the fucking moon machine that landed on the moon. You look at that picture now in 2017, and you're like,
yeah,
there's no way that little fucking thing landed on the moon. Are you kidding me? That thing, I could push that thing. It's like aluminum foil around.
All right, I'm curious because obviously, it does look really fake. Like
There's
high
a
schoolers could
curtain
make that
rods,
back in the day. But
gold foil.
I'm curious
Obviously,
though.
Cardboard construction paper. It looks like a 1960s version of what they thought futuristic shit would look like, and nowadays it looks absolutely laughable to think that could possibly have landed on the moon. As you said, there's no way they can take a shit on the moon. They say that they shit in diapers, but in reality, you can see Buzz Aldrin, if you look at some of the photographs they took while supposedly on the moon, and you look at the timestamps, 2 minutes elapses, and suddenly he's changed his gloves. Another 2 minutes elapses, and his boots are different. Another 2 minutes elapses, and he's got a different backpack on, or a whole different color spacesuit. So when you look into the moon landing, there's anomaly after anomaly after anomaly like this that you'll see, which shows that they were just faking it in a studio. The times on the picture, the timestamps they claim are complete nonsense. They just make it all up, and they fake the timeline. And then when you ask for actual evidence, like the original footage and the telemetry data, they just have to say, "We lost it. Sorry, $30 billion of your taxpayer money, the greatest accomplishment of mankind, having someone walk on the moon, but we lost the footage. Sorry about that."
Okay,
I'm having a lot of fun watching the head of NASA. I forget his name, the current head of NASA, or maybe he was the head of NASA 3 or 4 or 5 years ago. Him in front of Congress trying to get money and trying to increase their budget. Those are fucking hilarious. Have you seen these, Eric?
Yeah.
That's the funniest shit ever. Like the congressman going, "Wait, what do we need at $4 billion for? Didn't you guys already go to the moon?" And they're he's getting grilled, but this guy he sounds like a used car salesman it's hilarious.
Right.
I wish we could pull that up. You know what I'm talking about, right?
The guys on
we
the
can pull
Mars
it up.
missions are like that too.
Hey, I'm
You look at
curious.
the NASA official spokespeople for the Mars missions. The
Oh,
absolute
yes.
actors, and you can see they're just filleting Satan to try and get a couple extra dollars of taxpayer money.
You guys talk about NASA like they're the game in town. Like SpaceX is sending people into space next year. At least that's what they say. What do you guys think about that? Like, they want to take 2 civilians around to the dark side of the moon. Like, if I'm SpaceX right now, civilian number 1, if he's willing to get on the ship, is Eric Dubay. Because if I can shoot Eric Dubay up into space and he sees the world's round, case closed. Done. Over. Right? No?
Yeah, SpaceX is just as private as Alex Jones, and that's why SpaceX is never going to admit this. Just like Alex Jones wouldn't allow your flat Earth videos on his site, Eddie.
You think Alex Jones is you think Alex Jones is part of the establishment?
Absolutely.
He's just feeding.
I know him. I just don't think so, because if he is controlled opposition, they fucked up. Because don't you think the establishment, the globalists, the people in charge, don't you think they wanted Hillary to win and they didn't want Trump? Because that's why everyone's against Trump. The CIA is against Trump. Everybody's against Trump. The whole political system, the Republicans, Democrats, entertainment, it's like Trump was an accident. And if Alex Jones is controlled opposition, that's a big fuck up there, right? Because he was responsible for Trump getting elected pretty much, right?
There you go. Alex is just as establishment as Trump is, but the establishment wants you to think both of them are anti-establishment. And that's how their WWE game works, where they give you their polar opposites and you pick one or the other, and you're controlled either way.
I think he really, really cares about bringing liberty back to this country. I think he really is anti-globalist.
Your video.
Well, he censored.
Absolutely. That's why he censored your videos, because he totally canceled. That's why your videos were allowed up for the first video was up for 5 hours before he took it down, where you mentioned my name over and over again. And then the next video, you did the same thing. That one lasted 4 hours.
But it's flat Earth, though. I understand, because when I first heard of it, like I said at the top of the podcast, when I first heard,
he didn't just hear of it. I've been telling Alex Jones about flat Earth since 2009.
But don't you understand how crazy it sounds? It does sound crazy, and most people think it's crazy. I was violently opposed to flat Earth whenever, really. I mean, I understand people not buying into it at first, and maybe not ever. There's enough debunker videos out there that, that if you get on the wrong video, it could just kill your whole journey, your truth journey by picking the wrong video, and then it's, you know what I mean? I understand why people laugh at the flat earth theory, because I did. I thought it was ridiculous. It made me angry and shit. So I get it. None of those guys at the Alex Jones show, to me, there's a big crew, and I can't say they're being paid by someone. They are, you know, they're on a certain level of conspiracy theory, right? They're 9/11's inside job. JFK was it was a conspiracy. They're on that level, but the flat Earth, space don't exist the way we think it exists. We've been lied to, and all that. That's a whole nother level. You know what I mean? So it'll take some time, but I think Alex Jones pulled my flat Earth stuff because it might distract from what his mission is. His mission is all about Trump. You know, let's get Trump through. Let's protect Trump. It's all about Trump. That's his mission. If he started talking about like, you know, Holocaust denier type stuff, he ain't going to talk about that. That'll just kill his mission. He can't bring that up. Even Holocaust deniers won't bring that up if they're trying to make a point about some other stuff. They know that'll kill their point. So let's just stay away from that, because right now it's not the right time. There's another mission. And Alex Jones' mission really is, it's on a political level. He's trying to, he's on air burying Hillary. I like that. He's on air burying CNN. I like that shit. Trump said CNN is fake news, then he calls it very fake news. I don't know. Trump may be a trick, but damn, he's calling CNN fake news. That's some good shit right there. I like that. He's the last hope. I know Hillary. If Hillary would have got in, it was over. I'd move to Iceland. But
look at
Trump is the last hope.
Look at all the he talked like he was against the establishment, and like he started saying all these about 9/11, about the Federal Reserve, all this shit, and then
Trump.
But then when he got elected, all the people he's putting into office were all the same people from before. Everybody's the same establishment. So that's where the line, I think, is.
Yeah, I don't know about Trump. I don't know, but I know for damn sure he's better than Hillary.
Yeah, who knows? But the point is that what does Trump bring to the table? Trump brings he brings separation. He's separating people from each other. He's separating the Mexicans from the Americans from the Americans, the blacks from the whites, the girls from the women. He's creating all this division between all of us. And I think that is wrong, because any kind of leader, anybody, anything needs to understand that we all need to work together. And like you start to
Hey, you're cutting out right now, Eric. Hold on.
You're cutting out a little bit, but
try now.
Say it again.
That's what controlled opposition does. Controlled opposition is there to divide any sort of legitimate movement that might come up. And that's why Alex, you said his brand of truth, or that's what he's pushing. Yeah, if your truth has limits, then you're what's known as a gatekeeper. And that's exactly what he is. He's a gatekeeper so that you won't ever get into the idea that we haven't been on the moon. You'll never question any sort of cosmology or NASA. You'll never understand that the Earth is flat and that that's the biggest conspiracy of all of them. Nor will he tell you about the Masons and the Jews who control the Masons, who are above them. His show is all about watering it down and claiming that the Bilderberg group is the top of the conspiratorial capstone. They've only existed for 50 years, and they are the tippy top of his conspiracy. And
you're breaking up a little bit. Let's maybe let it.
Brand of conspiracy will think that these innocuous groups are actually bone broth is more along the lines of what Alex Jones is all about. The more bone broth and other that's what it's about. He's not about truth. I've been talking to Alex, trying to send him the truth for the longest time. He knows about me. That's why he deleted me off of your YouTube video. He's a complete gatekeeper, and it's so obvious to someone like me who's a genuine truth seeker, and I've been in this thing for over a decade. But I understand that, Trump and Alex Jones, they are the second level gatekeepers for people that have broken through the mainstream and they don't actually get how deep the conspiracy goes. They're there to corral and honeypot you into never getting further than their little brand of the truth, which is, sure, he says a lot of great stuff. I mean, I was an Alex Jones fan, and I agree with 80% maybe of the things that he says, but it's the 20% that not only does he not get into, but he purposely covers up. He will shut off your phone call. He will take down your video, and when you talk about flat Earth, and, oh, that's a fake phone call, cut him off. That's a flat Earth. He knows about this. He knows about all the questions about the moon landing hoax. I've seen him interview Buzz Aldrin and all the other people. He's heard you, Eddie. He knows everything. Look at their face. Look at Leanne McAdoo as she's interviewing. I mean, the gatekeeping couldn't be more obvious. I've talked to probably more people than anyone on this earth about the flat Earth, and normal people do not act the way that the people at InfoWars act when you're just trying to, especially when they're supposedly trying to give you a voice. You don't act that way when you're just having a conversation about these things, especially when you're conspiratorial-minded like Alex Jones. Why the heck can't he... I can't fathom that. They lie about everything else, but they don't lie about this. And of course, the voice I'm doing is part of the shtick too. I haven't heard of conspiracies for the first time, and Alex Jones is your first introduction into this, and you see him just going off. I mean, there's compilations that are hilarious. I love watching them. I do think that this is where your truth is coming from. Gatekeeping techniques. David Icke did the same thing with his shape-shifting reptilians from the hollow moon base. He gives you all this great information. I agree with almost everything he says, every book he writes, and then he comes out, oh, by the way, the elites are all shape-shifting reptilians that come from a hollow moon base from Jacronis. Okay, David, what the... You know what's up there. These are controlled opposition. That's what Lenin said. If you want to control, if you want to control the opposition, you have to lead it ourselves. And so they know this. They don't just give you one side of the coin. They give you the other side. And that's why everyone's falling for Trump and everything. Is, oh, look, he's saying what I want to hear. He's saying all the right things. Of course he does. Obama used to say all the things you wanted to hear 8 years ago, too, and that's why he got elected into office. They just update their rhetoric with the contemporary...
Yeah, Trump could be part of the whole program, because based on CIA whistleblowers, based on what they say, CIA is designed to just destroy economies and just go in there and fuck up countries like they've done in every South American, Central American country. All of them are in shambles economically. And that's the way it is. You take a country, they're easy to control when they crush the economy, easy to control.
I just got back from Brazil like 2 weeks ago, and it's like, how the fuck you're going to tell me this country that has all the resources in the world, has the best soil to do all this, and you're telling, and I'm driving through the slums. I'm like, how is this even possible? How did this get this way? Obviously, this wasn't an accident. It's not a complete shambles because it is an accident, because accidents correct themselves. People correct it. People are always working to get better. Nobody's working to get worse unless you're being purposely, unless somebody's putting holes in your boat on purpose or blowing your boat up. Either way.
Yeah. Every country south of America, Mexico, all the countries,
Africa,
all of them,
just
on this side, all of them are in shambles. They're all third world type countries. You don't think they're trying to do that here? I think it's the easiest way to control, because the globalists, the people that are running the planet, I'm guessing they're not all American. I'm guessing they don't give a shit about a country. I'm guessing that they it's all about control with them. It's easier to control a country when you have them broke down. They're all fighting against each other. Yeah.
Ignorant. You keep them ignorant. You keep them dumb. You keep them
put them on
poor.
Put them
jobs.
on government food. Put them on government health care. Put them on all that shit. So if anybody steps out of line, boom, you pull the plug on them. Bam, boom. What? Boom, bam. You there, Eric?
Yep. You got it.
We lost you for a while there. We lost you, man.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So enough about Alex Jones. But let me say this about Alex Jones. I think there's I know you think he's like getting paid to say certain things and all that. I don't know. Anything's possible, I guess. But Alex Jones was on JRE. and that's the biggest podcast of all time, right? So whatever anybody thinks about Alex Jones, that podcast is the biggest podcast of all time. He did take a lot of people who were completely asleep and kind of get their eyes open. I mean, that's why it was the biggest podcast of all time, the biggest show of all time. And he got some people that were totally asleep, and he got them to wake up a little bit, even if it's just JFK or Pizzagate or Tower 7 or chemtrails. Even if it is something like that, you can't go from being totally asleep to believing in the flat earth theory. You got to bring them along. You got to, explain Tower 7 a little bit and kind of wake them up. You don't want to jump into the crazy shit right away. There's a way to do it. You know what I mean? You don't want to jump into the... So whether Alex believes in flat earth or not, I believe he's just like most people that think it's so crazy. I believe he thinks you're crazy, and I believe he thinks that you're a waste of time. And most people do. Most people don't believe you. I love the things you're saying. I love the way you break down NASA science. I love that shit. I love the way you break down what we were brought up to believe. I love that shit. But most people don't. And just because Alex Jones doesn't want to have anything to do with you, I get it, because I was that way. I was, if someone would have introduced me to you a year ago and you were trying to come at me with flat earth, I would think you were the biggest fucking idiot ever. And I would tell you that. And maybe I wouldn't tell you that. I know you do Wing Chun. Maybe I wouldn't say anything. But yeah, I get it. So my point is, Alex Jones goes on Jerry, opens up, he cracks open a lot of brains, even if it's on the low level conspiracy. And even you yourself, you said, I've heard you talk about how you got into flat earth at first. You got into Alex Jones, you got into 9/11, JFK, and then you thought Alex Jones was a gatekeeper. So then you moved up to different levels of conspiracies. But even just that, you could say he is the gatekeeper. He did open the door. So whether he's getting paid by Israel or whatever that is, we're right here, me and you, talking. You know what I mean? And people always tell me Alex Jones is a shill. You're not the only one. I've heard that by so many different conspiracy theories, and I think a lot of it has to do with you're on different missions. If you're on a mission to wake people up about healthcare or whatever, that's your mission. If you're on a mission to wake people up about what's going on in Africa, that's your mission. If I'm trying to explain apartheid to someone and I get into nuclear bombs don't exist, that's just going to kill everything. You know what I mean? And you could say, but the reason you got to understand that to understand everything, whether he's controlled opposition or not, it's like, I think, he's opened up a lot of people's eyes on that podcast. Then I ended up going on his show, dropping flat earth bombs and, that dinner conversation we had. So it's all like I'm not mad at Alex Jones. He's got his thing. He's into Trump, whatever. Maybe Trump is a big trick. Maybe he's part of it and doesn't know it. But to me, he's just a guy who doesn't need a teleprompter. And I mean, very few people can do that. No teleprompter and can go for 6 hours straight, dropping all sorts of political stuff, political documents and CIA documents and chemtrail this and healthcare here and NSA here. He's on that level. There's nothing wrong with that. Everything he said, like he's saying, like 90% of the things he says, I agree with, and it seems like he's into his family, and he's into Americana, as he says. He's definitely not on the Hillary side, and that's a beautiful thing, because for me, I believe that whole Hillary, Podesta, Bill Clinton, Obama, even the Bushes, all that was the true darkness. That's the true darkness. Trump might be part of that too, but for sure we know Hillary, Obama, Bill, all that side, that's the darkness right there. So maybe Trump is part of it. Maybe we got fooled. Maybe they had him team up with Alex Jones to take to take the propaganda up another notch. You know what I mean? That's because if I was in the Illuminati, that would be my idea. I go, dude, the next president, we got to get him into Alex Jones. We got to get him into conspiracy theories. People go, oh shit, he's the truth, right? It'd have to be something like that. We'd have to go high level sophistication, because Obama kind of did that, because when he was running for office, he had posters of Che Guevara like behind him. So people were thinking, oh man, he's all about, true revolution. This guy's the man. And people were believing, and he's such a good speaker. And Obama, and then, plus he was black, and people were like, hope, oh shit, and then once he gets in, you're like, oh my God, he's just part of the whole program. And maybe we'll find that out about Trump too, but I don't know. Trump looked at CNN and said, you're fake news. And then he said, you're very fake news. I like that. Because we know CNN is 100% propaganda, right? CIA?
They know you like that. That's why he's saying it. Like I said, it's all the rhetoric. It's the updated version.
Oh, that's
falling apart.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That would be the most sophisticated thing they could do, is have a president who's in the middle of waking up to conspiracy theories. Holy shit, right? You think that's what it is?
Absolutely. Alex will wake up to this eventually once he can't not wake up to it anymore. He can delete your videos now and pretend that he doesn't know who Eric Dubay is and all this. He's not going to be able to do that for long. And soon everyone's going to come in and they're going to be saying like they knew all along and they're not part of it. They weren't part of the people hiding it. Yeah. No,
you think you think the masses will ever? You think it is growing at a tremendous pace, the flat Earth movement. That is pretty incredible.
I think the flat Earth is just one part of many things, and I think really there's no president that's going to change the world for the better. Nobody's going to come in here and be like, let's make this a better place. That was JFK, and he wasn't here for long. So I think now it has to be, everybody has to understand that we are all here together. We are all working together, and we can change the world ourselves. Nobody's going to come in and just make the world the way you want it to be. It's the same way. It's like I own a company and I want to hire somebody and then just expect that them when I hire them that they're going to do the perfect job. It's like, no, the people, you need to work every day. The people need to all be on the same page. And if something needs to change, you need to change it. You can't expect somebody else is going to come in here and save the day. Nobody can save the day. If we want something done, if we want something, we need it. We need to go get it. We need to do it. We need to organize.
Eric, what about satellites? Absolutely. People are like, what about satellites? I see satellites up in the air. Like, to me, it would be impossible to see a satellite if they're about the size of a bus and they're like 100,000 feet in the air, and
a lot further than that.
And then a plane, a 747 is way bigger than a satellite. But let's just say that a satellite is the size of a 747 jet. At 30,000 feet, you can barely see it. It's a speck at 30,000 feet. Now you're talking over 100,000 feet or whatever it is. What is it, like 100 miles in the air? They're supposed to be floating around these satellites. There's no way you're going to be able to see that. So when people say, "Oh, I see satellites," you could see them in the air. I'm like, do the math. The science is, you could barely see a 747 at 30,000 feet. That's the science. You're going to see a satellite the size of a bus, a couple miles in the air, whatever it is, right?
Right. No, there's no satellites. The closest ones they say are 100 miles, and there's ones they say are 200 to 400 miles away. And like you said, no, you can't see a bus from 100 miles away. Not only that, but the place in the atmosphere they say they are is supposedly so hot that all of the elements the satellites are made of have melting points much lower than that, so the satellites would totally melt. Beyond that, none of the pictures, you look at satellite pictures on NASA, you can't find a single image that isn't a cartoon. They're obviously all fake images. There's no real image of a satellite. And from your own experience, you know that no matter how high you go up, there isn't some magic mystery point where you can just go up, 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 and suddenly you start floating. Like they say that satellites, astronauts, and the ISS is able to do. They say that the Earth and the atmosphere are constantly spinning. So the higher up you go in the atmosphere, the higher the rate of spin, so that where the ISS is, the atmosphere is actually spinning at 17,500 miles per hour. When you see those images of them like they're out in outer space in the stillness doing their little slow motion movements underwater, they say that they're actually moving at 17,000 miles per hour. And then they say that the atmosphere continues to go faster and faster to some unknown point where they won't tell us because it would collapse the whole nonsense if they did. But at some unknown point, the spinning, progressively faster spinning atmosphere gives way to non-spinning vacuum space, non-atmosphere. So there's like a point where you just pop out, and instead of coming right back down to Earth like everyone else, a skydiver, anyone else that's ever tried to go high up, there's this point, and then you float out and you're in a vacuum. And somehow they say a vacuum, a negative pressure system, can exist adjacent to a positive pressure system, an atmosphere, without a solid barrier in between. You know, that's impossible too. If you've got a spray can of deodorant, the only reason it's in there is because it's got a solid barrier separating it from the atmosphere outside of the can, from the different pressure system that's on the inside of the can. And if you break it open, then they equalize, and there you go. And so if we actually had a vacuum of space and an spinning atmosphere around our planet the way that they say they would, the vacuum seal would be broken, and there is no way that there could be some mystery point like that. And they claim that their rockets are in the vacuum space, and the rockets are going to the moon. But if you're in vacuum space and there's no atmosphere for your jet propulsion to go off of, then your shuttle would go 360 degrees like a gyroscope, and you would never go anywhere because you couldn't point any direction because there's no atmosphere to go.
Wait, well, what about like direct TV then? Like seriously, like you said, there's no satellites. What about satellite television and satellite weather and satellite radio? Like that's
yeah, that's how easy it is. You just put the word satellite before it, and everyone believes that that's how it's being done. When in actuality, everything is being done via ground-based towers and wires. All the technology that satellites supposedly do were already done before satellites were supposedly invented by a science fiction writer named Arthur C. Clarke. He's the one that postulated satellites, and then within 10 years they really existed, and they're out there. Now there's 20,000 of them supposedly out there spinning around the ball Earth, when all the technology that they supposedly do for us is already capable via ground-based technology.
All right,
towers, wires across the ocean.
Yeah,
I'm the skeptic here, real quick. When you look at satellite TV and you say it's just going over the air, then explain to me, if it's just going over the air, then the towers that would be feeding it would be underneath the clouds. If that's the case, why on a rainy day when I have satellite television can I not watch my DirecTV? Because they tell me it's because the satellite can't get its signal to me because it's raining and the cumulus clouds are too big.
Yeah, the ground tower can't get its signal to you during that day, and that's why. But they want you to believe they have gold foil wrapped metals up there spinning around in the atmosphere that's sending you signals, and that's why it's not getting there. But their technology is not nearly that good.
The technology, so you're basically telling me that it's fed to me like a radio signal is, right, from an FM tower?
Yes.
Okay,
from
so
a tower.
now when FM signals, I don't know if television signals are the same, but when an FM signal is transmitting on a cloudy day, it is actually better than it is if it's not cloudy, because the sun rays will destroy a radio wave. It eats it up. So that's why, like, for example, AM signals are better at night because they're not getting destroyed by the sun's rays. So on a cloudy day, the sun can't access the radio wave for an AM signal, so it comes in better. I don't know if that's the same for television, but if that's the case, then for me, you wouldn't see a difference in quality at all from a cloudy day if the tower is underneath the clouds. And if you did, it would be better and not worse.
So satellites must exist. Now, if satellites existed in the positions that they say they are, they're all over the ball Earth. And if that was the case, then most satellite dishes, if not all, would be facing 180 degrees straight up, because your nearest satellite would be the best and clearest way to get a signal. But almost every satellite dish you're ever going to see is at about a 45-degree angle, and it's pointing towards the nearest local ground tower. It's not pointing straight up to satellites in outer space. That would be a ridiculous way to send this information anyway. Why would you send information hundreds of miles into outer space to just send it right back down to where you are when you have repeater towers all over the Earth anyway, and they just keep building more, these huge cell phone towers? Why do they have 1,000, 2,000 foot high cell phone towers if we've got satellites? They're building more and more of these all over the place.
Explain GPS.
Yeah, GPS. They just put a G before it and everyone thinks they're on a globe. GPS is just like Google Earth. It's just data that you map onto a ball, CGI ball Earth, and because of that, everyone thinks that it must be on a ball. But the data has been taken from this motionless flat plane that we live on, and then put onto a CGI, the Google Earth anyway, and GPS. Yeah, same idea. They've just taken the actual flat plane we live on and curved it under, and nobody really goes to the extreme southern hemisphere anyway, so they can't determine that the lines of latitude as you go out are actually expanding as they would on a flat plane instead of coming back in as they claim it does on the ball Earth.
Yeah, I want to know why, if the satellites do exist, right? I don't believe in them, but if they did exist, how come I don't get service when I'm in Hawaii or when I'm in the mountains? Or it's like if it's a satellite, it's going to directly go to you. It's not going to have to go through. But because I feel like because we're in the mountains and stuff, it's not getting the tower-to-tower service.
But
there should always be service.
Are you talking about your phone, Kron?
I'm talking about my phone.
Your phone comes off radio towers. It's not a satellite.
But it comes from a satellite before that, or no?
The supposedly satellite phones, and these satellite phones won't work in places like Kazakhstan where they don't have the infrastructure of ground-based towers to actually send the signal. But if there were 20,000 satellites all over the Earth, they would be over every... I mean, you can see the little CGI map they have where the satellites supposedly are, and there is one over every single point on the Earth. So every satellite dish should be facing straight up 180 degrees if that's what they were actually sending and receiving signal to and from.
So what do you think they're doing with the satellites? They're just... they're asking Congress for money for these satellites. They're blowing it up, and the congressmen think they're doing something noble. They're like, yeah, telecommunications, blah, blah, blah. They take the money, they pocket it, they launch a satellite, it falls into the ocean. Like, what do you think's going on?
Yeah, that's the same thing the rockets do. Yeah, more ways to swindle your money. Rockets don't go up, and then pop into the vacuum of outer space like they say they do. You can watch any rocket launch you want to, and you're going to see a parabolic curve, just like anything that you try to shoot up in a straight line. It's not going to infinitely go up and then start to float somewhere. It comes back down, and it makes a parabolic arc. And, of course, all of their rockets do so, and they have to give an excuse for it. And they say that they're going over the curve of the ball Earth. But really, they're just shooting rockets into the ocean and then retrieving them. And you can see them doing that.
You think that there's...
Any picture of a rocket's the same.
You think there's satellites and stuff up in the air that are not outside the dome, that are just inside floating up there, like the space station and stuff like that?
Again, the word dome means that we have found that there is some sort of solid barrier out there beyond the Antarctic icing covering us, which we have not found. So I don't know that there's a dome. I don't know that there's a barrier, an edge, or if we live on an infinite plane. So I wouldn't say anything about a dome. All I know is that the Earth is flat and motionless, and they won't allow us to explore Antarctica, so we don't know how the flat, motionless Earth ends, whether there is an edge, a barrier like a dome, or if it's an infinite plane, or if there's other puddles beyond here. Or it's open to speculation right now because they won't let us independently explore it. But what I don't like is a lot of these flat Earth researchers who are coming into this now, some are more genuine than others. A lot of them will say that it's definitely an infinite plane, and they'll name their channel after it. Or they'll say it's definitely a dome, and their whole channel will be about being in an enclosed system, when neither of these people have any evidence that it's either. And so it's disingenuous to state as fact that we live under a dome or that it's an infinite plane or anything like this. And of course, this is what I expected when I started breaking this flat Earth information. They're not just going to let me do this. They're going to bring in their gatekeepers, like Alex Jones and like the others. They've got smaller gatekeepers for the flat Earth that they've brought in to distort the message. And they give fake flat Earth arguments, hoping that you'll reach them before you reach someone like me. And then you'll hear their stupid arguments saying that gravity's real, but the flat Earth disk is constantly rising, and that's what causes us to, things to fall. They'll give explanations like this, which to any sound thinking person will totally reject, and then they'll totally reject the entire flat Earth model based on these little bits of disinformation that are being given. And that's exactly what Alex Jones and the other gatekeeper disinformation agents do. They give you 80-90% truth, as we're saying, and that's how they hook people like me and others, because they are saying truth. But then at the same time, they're feeding you a bunch of lies, and they're trying to take you off course. And the Flat Earth movement is no different. It's absolutely full of shills and gatekeepers and controlled opposition, giving you different maps and models. There's a square Earth. There's a heart-shaped flat Earth. They've got all this crap that they're coming up with, and it's to try and corral the movement so that you don't find genuine researchers first. You're talking about, well, Alex is the biggest podcast ever. He woke up new people. Yeah, that's the point. He's a honeypot. They want to bring you into his version of reality. They don't want you to come to someone like me or other genuine people who have gone much further down the rabbit hole. They need to gatekeep you and stop you there. So they tell you the true information to corral you, and then they have limit that they won't go beyond, which it's completely obvious where Alex's limit is, and you've experienced it yourself, and you'll continue to experience it as this goes on. But
who are people we shouldn't listen to as far as flat Earth, in your opinion? Who are the shills? Who are the most obvious ones? Can you say, or will you get sued?
What I'll say is we keep really good track of them on IFERS, the International Flat Earth Research Society. We have a group of people, and we keep track of what the various flat earthers are claiming, and then we write it down on the forum so people can see for themselves who is saying what, and you can do experiments for yourself to figure out what's reality and what's disinformation. And the more disinformation these people speak, the more suspicious we are of them, and the more likely we would be to call them a gatekeeper or a shill or anything like this. So if you go to ifers.123.st, there's a whole section on there just for that, showing people that we think are genuine and not so genuine based on the information that they've been giving.
What about, okay, you don't want to drop any shill names, but what about guys that we can trust, in your opinion? Who are some names?
Same thing. You
can't say?
We keep, anything that's on there are people and videos and information that we've found reliable. So if you go to IFERS, all the people that are on there, all their videos that we recommend there, you'll find a bunch of different and there's more popping up all the time, which is great, which is what I want, by the way. I don't want to be the flat earth figurehead, and I don't want these other disinformation agents to come in and take it over either. What I want is a grassroots movement of just all these little channels, just normal people doing your own experiments, making your own flat earth videos, and that way we'll be able to counteract these figureheads that are popping up. They're having their own shill conference, I call it, Shillfest 2017 in North Carolina, and all of their main disinformation flat earth people are all speaking at that, and they're turning it into this big money grab event where it's really expensive for tickets, and they're selling all these items and turning it into this like flat earth franchise or whatever, and all the heroes, they even have like special tickets you can buy to have like private time with some of these people. It's ridiculous. So they're trying to turn it into this circus of disinformation agents, and myself and others have exposed that on IFERS. So I recommend they go to IFERS. You'll find both who's genuine and the genuine information, and you'll see who are disinformation agents and why, and what kind of things they're saying, and why we suspect them to be disingenuous.
Now, a little off topic here. Another conspiracy theory that's blowing my mind is nuclear bombs, and the timeline of when they were theorized, and then when they actually because it was a theory at first, right? The theory was something like this: man, if we could split an atom, it'll cause critical mass, and the explosion will be, like 1,000 times greater than a regular bomb. If we could just split that atom inside of a bomb, it'll cause a chain reaction, critical mass, and it was a theory for a long time. They put a lot of money into it. The Manhattan Project, thousands of scientists trying to figure out a way to split that atom. They were working on it, and it seems like they never figured it out, right?
Well, the nuclear hoax is very similar to the Ball Earth hoax in that the way to break it down will be to actually look at the footage. And when you look at the footage, you're going to find all these anomalies that show that the footage of most nuclear bombs are fake. And then the footage that is real has actually been done using TNT, non-nuclear explosions, just stacked up. So you make a huge explosion. But again, it's ground-based. They want you to think that they can have, nowadays, a suitcase. They want you to think that in the size of a suitcase, that they can blow up a whole city. And this is the psyop, once again, it's fear-based mind control.
You're gonna have to back up a little bit. We lost you like the last 2 minutes. We lost you. You were basically saying, how when everyone is brought up looking at those nuclear.
Yeah, it was about the nuclear.
Those nuclear bombs going off, and you see like some kind of hurricane red radiation wind sweeping through like a town and taking down buildings and shit. And I mean, doesn't it seem like it's fake looking back at it now? Like, who's filming that?
Yeah,
Someone
how
filmed?
come the camera didn't get destroyed?
Exactly. Who filmed that? It looks like, and then you find out about, I don't know if you know about this, Eric, you probably do, but Lookout Mountain Laboratories in Hollywood. It's back in the 50s, top secret Air Force intelligence base. It was a movie studio right in Laurel Canyon, right there in Hollywood, a movie studio that was way more advanced than any other movie studio. It was the highest, it was the best movie studio on the planet. And it was top secret, and they said that's where they edited nuclear bomb footage. And like, why would you need some top secret? I guess the top secret thing because of nuclear, but why would you need this super sophisticated movie studio to do that? And then it got declassified like in the 90s. And then it came out. Yeah, this was a top secret Air Force intelligence facility right there in Laurel Canyon. And Jared Leto lives in it now, which is weird. He lives there. He owns it and lives there. And that's where they use this place to edit nuclear bomb footage. Now when you go back and look at that footage, you're like, damn, they made this shit here. It looks fake as fuck, right? Eric?
Absolutely. It looks totally fake. You can see the trees being supposedly blown over are clearly models, and then they cut back to an actual forest, and then they go back to the broken model. Like Crone said, you can see that the camera doesn't get blown to smithereens like the bus or the house or whatever it is that the nuclear blast is blasting. And the camera is right there within the blast radius, not more than 100 feet, say, away from it. And it not only does it not get blown away like absolutely everything else, the trees, the bus, the buildings, but it doesn't even move. It doesn't even like shake from the atmosphere.
But maybe, what if people say, hey, but they used a camera that was far away and it had a zoom lens? Like, is that even possible?
Yeah, no, well, it's not that, because you can see that they're on model sets, and oftentimes the explosion isn't an explosion. They've used some sort of plasma effect, and they've also done effects using filters on the sunrise, and they use a fast-forwarded sunrise with filters, and they call it a nuclear blast on the horizon. They've even done stuff like this. And Hiroshima and Nagasaki is the main thing that people say. That's why they believe nuclear bombs exist.
Hold on, Eric. People get mad at the nuclear bomb thing, man. It's just something. Nuclear bombs are just another thing that we have to take some unknown scientist's word for. I mean, I don't know what a nuclear blast looks like. If I see an explosion, how do I know if that's a nuclear bomb or a regular bomb? I mean, looking at a bomb or a missile, you can't tell if it's nuclear or not. I mean, the nuclear bombs, that's something that we got to take someone's word for. Some government scientists, government, aircraft carriers. There's no conspiracy theory that aircraft carriers don't exist. There's no conspiracy theory that tanks don't exist. There's no conspiracy theory that blue whales don't exist, because we don't need to take someone's word for that. But anything that we got to take someone's word for, especially corrupt ass governments, you gotta always be suspicious. Maybe this science coming from the government is true, maybe it's not, but I'm looking at it like these are criminals. And if I could imagine some kind of money trail, I could follow the money in my head. If I could think of it, for sure they have already thought about it. I'm no genius. But if someone explains, like someone could come up to me and say, hey, you know how the government fucks you in this way that I would have never even looked into? And they're like, oh, I wouldn't even doubt it. If the money trail makes sense in my head and I wouldn't even have to look into it. I'm like, if he was, the odds that, if he's bullshitting about how corrupt the government is in this certain area, I mean, they're still corrupt. Maybe he's wrong about this, but I'm not going to go, prove that. I don't know. Would you watch a YouTube video? No, I don't believe that. I believe the government is corrupt in this way and in this way and in that way, but not in that way. Those guys are like, they got one eye open. I'm like, dude, like, if someone told me, I don't know, there was a John Gotti expert. I don't know anything about John Gotti. I know he's a criminal or whatever, but if some John Gotti expert told me, hey man, did you know that he murdered, district attorney in Miami, I wouldn't know. I wouldn't say, prove it. Unless you have proof, like he's a criminal, he probably had something to do with it. I don't really need to look into it. I believe you. You know what I mean? I'm not going to doubt you and question you on a criminal. You know, so that's the way I look at the government. You know, anytime someone comes at me and goes, "Oh, you know how the government fucks you in this way?" I'm like, I never looked into it, never thought about it, but here, tell me the story. And if it makes sense, I was like, sounds right to me. You know, Eric, you got cut off again. You got cut off with nuclear bombs.
With nuclear bombs,
with Hiroshima
Nagasaki and Hiroshima are
yes.
the main things that people talk about because that's when they were supposedly used. And Hiroshima and Nagasaki were firebombed, just like every other major city in Japan during World War II. And most of the houses were made of wood and paper, so they just burned right to the ground. Now, there's radiation after any explosion. So as you're firebombing, there's going to be radiation, and you can take a Geiger counter to there as they did, and you'd find radiation. But they say that nuclear blasts, first of all, would come from a central point, and then the radius would be outward from there. You don't see that anywhere in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. There's not a central radius, and then everything is not tilting or slowly getting less damaged as you get farther away from that central point. In fact, both cities look just like all Japan's major cities looked after World War II, and they're completely firebombed from side to side, and there was no central point. And they tell us that if it was a nuclear blast, then for thousands of years we wouldn't be able to live there, and there would be so much radiation, people would be dying of cancer, and there'd be mutations. But flowers and plants and trees started regrowing a month after. People came right back to live there a month after. People have been living and no problem. The idea that nukes were dropped there is, again, the only reason they did those was as a propaganda piece, so that you actually thought that they existed. Why hasn't anyone, supposedly all of these dictators all over the place are getting these nukes and stuff, why hasn't anyone set one off, right?
Well, people would say, oh, they don't, you know, they're not stupid. They don't want to destroy the planet, right?
Yep, that's what they would say.
Yeah, and the crazy thing is there's always it's a great excuse to invade a country. All you got to say is, hey, man, we got some intelligence that says this motherfucker trying to build a bomb. We got to go in there and get those weapons of mass destruction. It's perfect. The fact that...
You got it. So the only two countries left in the world right now that don't have a Rothschild central bank system are Iran and North Korea. And these are the two countries that all you ever hear about is they're building nuclear weapons, they're going to get nukes. Well, what Iran and North Korea really are two independent nations that stuck their middle fingers up to the Rothschild central banking system that controls the entire world right now and won't even allow them in. And so all we get is propaganda about these places so that the public opinion will be swayed against them. And when eventually we have to go in there and create a democracy like we did in Libya and Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan and everywhere else that didn't have a central bank but now does have a central bank, this is the plan. And like I said, there's only a couple countries left, and they have these excuses like nuclear weapon, like they're the world police, and they got to go and protect us from these earth-destroying bombs that they've created.
Now, what do you think about North Korea? I mean, of course, I can never remember his name, Jill Song or whatever his name is. Of course, he's an evil dictator, right? Or is he a good guy? Like, I'm confused.
Well, it's what's happening is you've got a world system that is trying to, like Kron was saying about South America, and you've got all these rich lands. People should all be wealthy. There's no reason that everyone should be living in slums. The world provides everything for us. Parasites that are sitting on top of us, and they're just siphoning and sucking all of the money and energy out of the population. And so if you get a leader who says, no, I'm not going to allow it. I'm just going to close off our borders, and we're going to take care of our own people. We're going to have our own money system. We're going to have our own food. We're going to do our own shit, everything, and fuck you guys. Then the rest of the world that's on this system says, what? That's not okay. We want you to open up to trade. We don't want you to have someone standing against our system. We want complete hegemony. We don't want to have somebody opposing us and potentially giving an alternate system like Gaddafi did. Gaddafi was going to reintroduce the gold standard and was similar to JFK. He was going to bring in a bunch of real currency into the market, and that would have trashed their fake fiat currencies that they're constantly floating and creating out of thin air. And so they had to kill him, just like they kill any dictator and demonize any dictator who's actually trying to help his people. Now, at the same token, I'm not going to say that, Kim Jong-il or any other dictators aren't completely benevolent or whatever. I'm sure that there's evil things or bad things that they may or may not have done. But the point is, what I want people to take home is that you're getting your information from the people who hate these people. You have to say, and it's all they ever do say, is that he has brainwashed every single person in his country, because every single person in that country loves him and they love what he's done for North Korea, and they're against him. The West has done the same thing. Globalists, the New World Order, comes in and takes and puts everybody on this global system of theirs, the money, the one world money system. They've got fiat currency out of nothing. Made out of nothing. That's the main scheme. Am I gone again?
You were gone, but now you're back. TJ, what do you think about this?
I don't know, man. I'm taking everything in here. I have a lot of questions, and they're a little bit off topic on where we are now. But we're talking about Antarctica, and how we're not able to just go ahead and individually explore. Can we talk about that? Because
yes,
for as far as I know, didn't Metallica play a show in Antarctica or something like that? I remember hearing something like that.
And here's another thing with the Antarctica thing, Eric. There was a guy, an astrophysicist, I think he was from either Austria or Bulgaria. His name was Auguste Piccard. He was supposedly, in the 50s, the first one to go 100,000 feet in the air in a balloon. And he had a little submarine little thing attached to it, and he went up 100,000 feet. And then he apparently said that at that level, the Earth appeared to be a flat plane with upturned edges. What do you know about Auguste Piccard?
Yeah, well, he's just saying that at the time people said that the Earth was a ball, so that the point right below you should be the closest point to you, and the points furthest away should be coming away from you. But what he actually saw was the opposite, where the furthest point from his point of view was right below him, and the horizon on each side of him rose up. So it gives the appearance, of a concavity, so to speak. But what you're really seeing is just a flat plane, and the law of perspective is bringing the ground up to your level. Like I said, if you're actually on a ball, no matter how big that ball was, the horizon wouldn't rise at all. It would stay exactly where it was, and no matter how high you would able to get, you'd have to dip your head further and down to see it. But it's exactly at half of your vision. Half your vision will be sky, half your vision will be ground, because that's the law of perspective. It doesn't matter how high you go, because the Earth is flat, and the plane that we live on, the way we see it, is this point perspective, like all art students are taught. It's not a spherical thing that curves away from you.
Now talk about Antarctica and the treaty that I think it was 1958 or something, where they made a treaty where no one's allowed to go deep inside.
Yeah, that's like we were saying earlier, just after this guy comes back from his military mission to Antarctica, telling everybody that there's untapped resources and all this new land that nobody's ever seen over there. Within a couple of years, the Antarctic Treaty is signed so that no independent exploration of Antarctica is allowed outside of their pre-packaged tour groups like you were talking about, or their little concert. Yeah, so Metallica or whoever plays a concert in Antarctica, so the Earth is a ball. Again, it's just they're doing these little propaganda pieces to make it seem accessible, to make it seem like this stuff has happened. None of the such has actually happened. Jarl Anderhoy, people who actually try to independently go there, they get caught, fined, put in prison, turn right back around. Rodney Clough is another one. So independent people who want to go there, and they don't tell the government first, they don't pay money to these little travel organizations to have their photo op on the pre-approved spots in Antarctica. People who want to actually independently travel for themselves have been arrested, and there's a treaty preventing it, so that it's being patrolled. They don't allow anyone to get to the edge where they, not the edge of the Earth, but the edge of the oceans, which is where it's contained by the ice wall.
How have these people tried to access Antarctica? I mean, I assume it's by ship. Has anyone tried to put a bunch of fuel in a plane and fly over the damn thing where they can't literally be stopped unless they're shot out of the air?
Not that I know of. As far as the plane, the people who have gone on ships. There's some speculation. People have wondered about Amelia Earhart, that kind of thing, but that's all speculation. As far as I know, nobody has tried to take a plane and just go south and see how far south they can go.
South Pole. Now, man, shit.
Boom. I'm convinced.
Yeah.
I was convinced before I came on this show. I just came on the show. I had some questions. And I'm really here just to put to let people know that if you think the earth is flat and you feel the earth is flat, you go with your intuition. Don't think everybody else is going to think that you're crazy, because who gives a shit what everybody else thinks?
Now, what do you say about those guys that say, well, what about all the scientists from all, over the last 100 years, all the astrophysicists, all of them, all the astronomers and all the science and all the great minds, they all believe the earth is round.
Not Tesla.
Tesla didn't think
Tesla
that?
didn't believe in gravity.
Yeah, not Tesla, not Michelson, not Morley, not Sagnac, not a bunch of these non-establishment scientists. They give you their Freemasonic establishment scientists that they promote and the theories that they promote. And then there's many, many, many other scientists with competing alternate theories who never get promoted, who you've never heard of, but who have actually proven, for instance, that the Earth is motionless. You've probably never heard of George Airy or Airy's failure or Sagnac's experiment or Michelson-Morley, but they'll tell you all day about relativity theory, which came because of those conclusive experiments. Michelson, Morley, Sagnac, Airy, they performed experiments that proved that the Earth is not moving.
I think you said they proved that the Earth is not moving.
He didn't come up with any science. There's no science to prove relativity. It's all philosophy. It's just an idea. It's a thought experiment. But actual science, actual experiments like Airy's failure and the Michelson-Morley experiment have been performed to show that the Earth is motionless. But they have, and there's nothing they can do about that except for censor it. They censor non-establishment science and scientists, and then they promote their Freemasons and their establishment science like Einstein. So you never heard of Michelson, Morley, Gale, Sagnac, Airy, and their experiments which proved that the Earth is motionless, but you have heard of Einstein, who philosophically said it's not motionless and that you can't figure out whether it is or not. So they give you their little scientific heroes, and then they censor and suppress all the other scientists who are saying the opposite things. I mean, just like the flat Earth. I mean, did you know that there's flat Earth books that have existed for hundreds of years? There's excellent flat Earth books, dozens of them that came out at the end of the 1800s.
Yeah,
Nobody taught you that.
You were talking about that at the top of the podcast, where there was a resurgence in somewhere like in the 1800s there was a flat Earth revival, and there was books. Talk about those guys. Like who were those dudes that were writing those books?
The main guy was Samuel Rowbotham, and he just did a bunch of experiments for over 30 years, wrote a bunch of books, and did lectures all over Europe talking about the flat Earth and exposing the heliocentric theory. He wrote a book called Zetetic Astronomy. William Carpenter wrote a book called 100 Proofs the Earth is Not a Globe.
What year was that?
That was also late 1800s, around 1890s. The Rowbotham book was first published in the 1860s. He did experiments over water, seeing if water was convex or flat, used theodolites, telescopes, flags, spirit levels, sextants, used different instruments to record that the supposed curvature of a ball Earth, 25,000 miles in circumference, should be 8 inches per mile when you square the mile. So spherical trigonometry, as you drop off on a ball, the drop gets bigger and bigger as you go. So in, say, a 6-mile channel at the Bedford level where he did some experiments, depending on where you measure the curve from, that would make a 6-foot-high dip in a 6-foot-high peak and 6-foot dips on either end. Or if you measure from here, it would be 16 feet going down. And he did different experiments to show that there's not even an inch of curvature. So, I mean, and there's many experiments that have been done since then to prove that the curvature would be visible at sea level even. You go to the beach and you see totally flat beach horizon and you think, well, the Earth's just really big. I wouldn't be able to see it. But you can see from the left side of your periphery as far as you can go to the right side of your periphery as far as you can go, which is actually at least twice as far as the horizon is straight in front of you, which they tell you is the curve of the ball Earth. So that's another way you can know that it's not the curve of the ball Earth, because you can see right and left of you twice the distance, and that's not curving away. So how could half that distance supposedly be curving away?
TJ, what do you think about this so far? Is he getting you?
No, but
No?
Here's the problem.
Okay.
I've done this thought. I've had this thought my entire life about the Earth being round, right? Like, I've been told that.
Yeah.
And you're not going to be able to convince me on one conversation. Like, this is something that I'm going to have to go ahead and research, even if I want to. Like, that's the question. Like, to me, I'm open to the Earth being flat, but why would I care? Why would I give a shit? Like, I'm not going to fall off. I understand that I'm not going to fall off. If there is a flat Earth, you guys are telling me that I can't even get to the edge because I can't get to Antarctica, and that's the key to getting to the edge. So as a guy who makes podcasts for a living and is consumed with mixed martial arts, why do I care whether or not the Earth is round or flat?
Eric?
Well, if you care about truth, then you should absolutely care. And if you care about your existence and humanity's existence, then you should care where we came from and what we're living on. Like I said, it's the biggest lie possible. So when I hear this all the time too, people say, what does it matter if it's flat or a triangle or a square? I don't care what shape the Earth is that I'm living on. What a waste of time. Yeah, it's not about the shape. It's about the lie. It's about the fact that we've been lied to for 500 years and we're still being lied to, and they're fleecing us of money and they're fleecing us of our actual purpose here on Earth and where we come from. Do you think that you came from a big bang explosion accident of matter, and then humanity and consciousness and life just randomly somehow evolved out of that explosion? Is that the cosmology that you've chosen to believe in? If it is, then it's very important, because that's absolute nonsense, and you've chosen to believe in a metaphysics and a physics, which are fairy tales. And if you don't think that's important, I don't understand you. I don't understand how you could think that that is not important to know the truth of the Earth, where we live on and where we've come from.
Sure. No, I can understand that. But my thing is this is something that, again, this is all relatively new to me. Like, I haven't put a lot of thought into this, and why would I ever really think about it? Now, you can say it's, you want to know the truth. Sure, and I agree. We've been lied to about a lot of things over the years. Is it chemtrails? Is it the Earth being flat? Is it all sorts of conspiracy theories, for sure. Like, those are interesting to me. I don't mind looking into them and having those conversations. I'm just curious when it comes to this, like, again, how does it affect me? Sure, globally, in the grand scheme of things, why am I here? How did I get here? Yes, I understand questioning those things. I mean, it's the same thing as religion. You can have that same sort of internal questioning. And I think, for the most part, if you just look at religion, I think a lot of people change their ideas on religion over their lives. I think a lot of people that are atheists, for example, are atheists young, but as they get closer to death, all of a sudden they start to think a little bit more about, okay, maybe there is an afterlife, probably because they're closer to death and they want there to be a continuation of life. So they're more open to the idea. Again, this flat Earth stuff is relatively new to me. I'm curious about the solar system. What does this mean for the solar system that I believe in? Is the moon not a round ball? Sure looks like it in the sky. Is Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, all of that stuff? Is that,
It's all a lie, buddy. It took me a while too.
Maybe it is. Maybe it is. But
Eric, there's a documentary called The Principle. Have you seen this?
Another controlled opposition, yes.
Oh, really? Because in that documentary, they talked about the cosmic microwave background. It's like a snapshot of the universe, and they did it once in 2006, and then they did it again, I think, 2013. And they basically said that the stars are rotating around us, and we are the center of the universe, according to their science. So you think that's controlled opposition? What do you think that's about?
Yeah, what you just said is true. Just like all controlled opposition, they have to mix in the truth with the lies. So their version of the truth is that we live in a geocentric system, which is true, but it's a geocentric ball Earth. spinning ball Earth. So they're just, again, what a gatekeeper does. And the principle didn't exist 10 years ago or 20 years ago because it didn't need to, but it does need to exist now. And this is what they do when someone like me runs the gauntlet of conspiracy truth. They have to set up the gatekeepers to corral people to not continue on and go as far as someone like me goes with it. So with the principle, they know that people have been talking about geocentrism and flat Earth, so they whipped up a documentary saying that, oh yeah, it is geocentric, but it's a spinning ball. So don't stick on the spinning ball. The moon landing is real. We've been to Mars. There's billions upon billions of planets. The solar system, all that's real. But the Earth is the middle part, not the sun. That's it. That's all the whole friggin' documentary is about, is they want to change your little perspective from the sun-centered to the earth-centered cosmology, all the while not talking at all about the fact that we're on a flat, motionless plane here and everything is revolving over and around us. They keep you with their space balls. So it's just yet another spaceball documentary where they give you a little bit of truth, geocentrism, and then feed you the usual pack of lies, the whole solar system, Big Bang, evolution, nonsense.
Well, for me, it just made me more sure that the people at the top of astrophysics and all the scientists and professors, to me, it just proved that they don't know anything, and that makes me lean more towards flat Earth. Even though that documentary, The Principle, had nothing to do with flat Earth, it did have everything to do with what we're on being the center of the universe based on their data and their cosmic microwave background images. I mean, mainstream science is saying we are the center. They didn't say that we're the flat Earth, but I took that as, oh shit, there's more evidence and that the Earth could be a flat plane based on that. So I think that controlled opposition thing, I don't think it's working. I think it's making people more open to the possibilities that we are living on a flat plane. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I hear you, but imagine if they went to my documentary instead of the Principle documentary. I'm not able to make as high quality a documentary as these people are. I don't have the distribution that these people do, but I do have the truthier truth than these people do. They're just taking you a little bit, and then they're packaging it so well that you think, oh, this must be what it is. Just like Alex Jones. They want you, they're giving you your figureheads so that you don't get all the way. And you're saying that, well, isn't it good that they at least took you part of the way? But you're not seeing the intention of setting these things up along the way anyway. If these people weren't there, then you just would have found me right from the beginning, just like everybody would have. If they didn't set up gatekeepers with half-truths, you'd obviously find the real truth right away. And the real truth shines so bright that eventually you guys find me anyway, or you find other genuine researchers who are talking the truth. And then you see someone like Alex Jones who says that the Jews have no involvement in the world conspiracy whatsoever. We've been to the moon. The Earth isn't flat. Hang up the phone. Eddie Bravo, we're good friends. Let's come on the show, but then I'm going to censor you. I'll put your video up, and then I'll take it down, and then I'll pretend that I'm for the truth, but my audience just doesn't. My audience likes bone broth, Eddie. My audience doesn't like truth. My audience can't handle, right? They can handle the ridiculousness that Alex Jones spits all day long, but they can't handle that the Earth might be flat, right? All the other crap that he talks about, that's fine, but the flat Earth, all my ratings would go down. People wouldn't believe me. Bullshit. Nobody knew who I was before the flat Earth. I've been doing this for years. I wrote many books before I wrote about the flat Earth. Nobody knew about me. People know about me now because I'm one of the only people actually legit talking about this truth without bringing in a bunch of nonsense like the other shills do. And so when these controlled opposition gatekeepers come up and people are like, well, isn't it good? I mean, I saw him first. Like, if I didn't see him, maybe I wouldn't have gotten to you. No, you would have gotten to me right away. You would have gotten to the genuine people right away if the disingenuous people weren't set up there to corral you beforehand. It's sophisticated, man. And of course, Trump and Alex Jones are part of it.
I'm not going to lie. When I the first thing I saw on flat Earth was like I was looking through my thing and like something came up about flat Earth. And I watched it, and it was just completely making jokes about it, you know? And I was like, oh, well, that was kind of like a letdown. I thought I was going to get into something pretty crazy here. And then it was all bullshit. It was all like just talking shit about it. And I was like, oh, well. And then I was like, wait a minute, let me do a little bit more searching here. And and then I did.
Same thing, man.
I searched
Same
for a
thing.
while.
Happened to me.
And then I got to you, right? But at first, I was like, I'm going to find something here. And it was like completely like, everybody talks about flat Earth. It's like, you're ridiculous. Ridiculous, motherfucker. Look at us.
Yeah,
We're
man.
over here walking on a fucking
I came
planet
across-
spinning.
Yeah,
I came across the Flat Earth Society website first when I started looking into flat Earth, and they are of obvious controlled opposition with their arguments like the flat Earth constantly rising to account for gravity, and that turned me off from it. So it did the exact opposite of what Eddie is saying controlled opposition does, and it did exactly what controlled opposition wants to do, which is turn you off from the subject. I thought that is the most ridiculous thing ever. I'm not going to bother waste my time with the flat Earth anymore. So I went away from the subject for almost a year because I met one of their controlled opposition disinformation sites first.
You mean the Flat Earth Society? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, the original Flat Earth Society was called the International Flat Earth Research Society, IFRS, which is what I restarted, and I'm the non-official president of that because I've called myself the president. I restarted it. It existed before the Flat Earth Society, 13 years before it did. The Flat Earth Society came up as a controlled opposition group because IFRS was being so successful in spreading the Flat Earth truth. So they came up with this other Flat Earth Society, and because it had the Mason money behind it, this guy was on TV all the time bringing a rock saying, I just went to the edge of our flat Earth and I almost fell over, but I was saved by this rock. I'm the president of the Flat Earth Society. And he makes the whole thing look ridiculous, just like David Icke and Alex Jones screaming and talking about reptiles. They make that look ridiculous. So they have the way to prevent these truths from coming out is you have to set your gatekeepers up to say a bunch of nonsense and a bunch of good stuff to corral everybody so that nobody gets to the real information, like happened to me. I was turned off from the flat Earth because I found that shit first, and then eventually I found the old 1800s books, which was not controlled opposition. These were written by legitimate, everyday guys doing experiments, and that's what brought me back to it. And this is what I'm saying: if all that was available for flat Earth content on the internet was genuine people like this, everyday guys doing experiments, it would be faster than it is right now. The flat Earth movement has been slowed down by these people, not heightened by them.
Okay, no. So now, what do you think? Based on everything you've listened to? What do you think? You're a Christian man.
Because
you're
you're
a God-fearing Christian.
Christianized. Yeah.
Christians believe, hardcore Christians believe the Earth is flat, right?
I would think so if they actually look at Genesis and go, oh wait, all land, then water came and separated everything.
Okay. Okay. So what do you think?
Interesting.
You think Eric DUBAY'S onto something?
That's the first thing. Remember, you gave me his name. That's the first thing I went to. Of course, I saw a lot of stuff too.
Oh, so you've already listened to him before?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. I said,
okay.
I got to at least find out something about this before I go on there. So I've been listening, and I love all the questions you guys been bringing up. That's what people have been sending me.
The questions.
Yeah. Yeah, but what about this? What about that?
What question do you have? You have any questions, or have they all been
I've
answered?
actually been answering them. I said, I can't ask anything now.
Did we? So
You hit everything.
Really?
Yeah.
I've got one question before you wrap up, because obviously everyone has a lot of opinions on the Earth. I want to know if everyone in this room is on the same page about how old the Earth is. How old do you guys think our planet is?
I don't know. There's no way that I would know. I'd have to take some unknown scientist's word for it. I would.
Right, but I
they're
mean,
gonna say 5 billion. I don't. Who knows?
Yeah, it's
There's
old,
no way.
old as fuck, and whoever I think our civilization, human beings, were way more high tech, way more evolved in every which way before. I think that's the truth. Like, and then we came in for whatever reason. Now we're like starting all over again. Yeah.
Well, Eric DUBAY'S got a pretty interesting video called "Dinosaurs Don't Exist," and that's another one. When you first hear that, you're like, "What? That is the dumbest shit ever." Of course they exist. Everybody knows. That epic battle of the Tyrannosaurus Rex versus the Triceratops. Everybody knows that shit.
I saw it at Disneyland.
Everybody's rooting for the Triceratops, right? Triceratops underdog with the horns. Tyrannosaurus Rex is fucking just pissed off, rah, running through the jungle, rah, and then he runs into the Triceratops, and nobody was going for the T-Rex as a kid, right? Those epic books, it's always a Triceratops, Land of the Lost, same shit, right? And the one thing I found out from Eric DUBAY'S Dinosaurs Don't Exist video is, I didn't know this. I didn't know that all the skeletons of dinosaurs that you see at museums are all replicas. Like apparently they don't bring out the real bones because they're sensitive and they lock them up. And so what we're seeing are replicas of the bones they found. When I found that out, I said, if that's true, I don't know if it's true, but if it's true that all the dinosaur skeletons that we're seeing in museums are replicas because the real ones are too sensitive and they got to hide them, that's a fucking huge red flag for me. I'm like, the only reason the skeleton of a dinosaur is amazing and it looks cool is because it's an actual skeleton of a dinosaur. If it's not real, if it's a replica, you might as well put fake skin on it.
Sure.
Put fake skin, put the teeth in. Yeah. Why are we looking at a fake skeleton?
Well, for it to be a replica, it has to be real. Otherwise, it's just fake.
Yeah, but it's only cool if it's real.
Right, no, I agree with you.
It's never cool if it's replica.
I agree with you, but like, so for example, I brought this up to my wife the other day, and she's like, yeah, but in high school, I went to an archaeological dig site, and we saw them brushing the dirt off of the bones. It was in Omaha or something like that. So
now, how do we know they're not?
Right.
Because they're finding shark teeth in Wyoming or whatever, Montana. How do we know they're not finding giant blue whales in Utah? And they're thinking, oh, shit, there's no way this could be. They're not even thinking like in the 1800s. You know, when you look at the timeline of when dinosaurs were discovered and all these guys discovering bones, and there's all the fraud and the scamming that was going on. There was our dinosaur bones that we grew up seeing in museums. There's a lot of history of scamming and fraud. When you look into it, you're like, oh, man. So Eric.
There's fraud in everything, though,
yes.
right, Eddie? Like anything.
Yeah, but when it comes to something that we can't verify for ourselves, these bones existed, what, millions and millions of years ago? How do we know? Again, it's some shit we got to take their word for. We can't. It's another thing. So, Eric, can you give us a rundown on the dinosaur hoax?
Yeah, I want to know about that one too because I don't know anything about that.
No, you never heard that? Yeah, he's all over dinosaurs.
Just get in it. Get in it.
Well, it's like Eddie said before, they want you to think that being smart is to regurgitate whatever information they've fed you and to be able to repeat that on command, and that's what a smart person is. But is it really that smart to believe in something that you haven't seen yourself, you haven't experienced yourself? When they say that there was terrible lizards that existed 65 million years ago, and you've never seen those lizards, you've never even seen the bones that supposedly exist of those lizards. Actually, bones don't exist, they say fossils do, which is bones that turn to rock. So if they ever did come out and try to show you a real bone, they would say this rock is a fossil and this fossil is a bone and this bone was a dinosaur. There's the proof. But they don't even show you that. They give you cast replicas that they show you in the museums. So it's not a smart thing for you to think that nuclear weapons exist just because you've been told they do when you can't confirm it yourself, or that the Earth is a spinning ball just because they told you and you can't confirm it for yourself, or that we've gone to the moon, or many other things that we talk about here. All we're doing is being skeptical. The very thing that the scientific establishment talks about, the Skeptic Society and Randy, what's his name, and all, the Penn and whatever, Gillette, what's their name? They got all these people, bullshit. They got these things set up, and they call themselves skeptics. And then they have Mythbusters or whatever, and then they show, oh, look, we're skeptical of the moon landings, so we set up some experiment, and we prove that moon landings are real. We heard about flat earthers, so we set up an experiment, and now flat earthers have been debunked. And this is what passes for skepticism in today's society. The Mythbusters and all these other people I'm talking about. These shows and these people that they call skeptics are the mainstream establishment people regurgitating everything the mainstream scientific establishment tells you, and they say, we're being skeptical. I am skeptical. Eddie Bravo is skeptical. We just don't believe any old bullshit that somebody tells us because it was in a textbook and some scientist with a white lab coat said it was there 65 million years ago. We just have that little disconnect where we say, I'm going to be skeptical. I'm going to say, maybe they existed, maybe they didn't. But I'm not going to say, oh, of course dinosaurs existed, you fucking retard. Are you kidding me? Everybody knows the Earth's a spinning ball. And this is what's been propagandized into your heads, is to react this way. Whenever someone is skeptical about something that you have no evidence for, you've been taught to ridicule that person and act like being skeptical is a sin. And so mine just began with that, my skepticism of the dinosaurs. And then I looked into the actual history of it. It's ridiculous. Nobody had ever discovered a dinosaur until the mid-1800s, when Darwin's grandfather and Darwin himself were coming out with their evolution bullshit. They needed ape-man transitional species and dinosaurs to fit the link between swimming reptiles and land reptiles and flying reptiles. Now they're trying to say that they've discovered bird dinosaurs, and there's feathers that have lasted for millions of years, and so now we know that birds came from dinosaurs. But nobody in all of history throughout the world had ever dug up and saved a dinosaur bone until the mid-1800s, when they needed it for their evolution theory. And then shortly after that, they're finding them all over the place. They found dinosaurs. But then people started analyzing them and finding out that about a third of the original dinosaur species that they came out with, the Bone Wars, when these two Masons were going head to head, coming up with, discovering hundreds of new dinosaur species per year. And it came out that a lot of these were totally fake. And even the ones that weren't fake and are still heralded as being real were complete mock-ups that they did from, say, 3 teeth and a thigh bone, or something along these. The first dinosaur was that. It's called the Trachodon, Toothosaurus, because they just found 3 teeth. And it's 3 teeth, it's a dinosaur. And they made all the bones, and they put the skin on the outside of it. It's just fantasy.
You know what a Tyrannosaurus Rex looks like? It looks like they found a big ass kangaroo. If you think about it, right? Little arms, those legs, that long tail. It looks like they just found kangaroos. Right?
A lot of them, yeah, a lot of them are mixed bones of different species. They take whale bones and elephant bones and mix them together.
Did they ever find? Do they ever claim to find a complete head of a Tyrannosaurus Rex? Do they claim that they found a whole head? And I mean, there has to be a date of when they found this, or maybe they found a bunch of complete Tyrannosaurus Rex heads, or are those all just made up?
For the longest time, they hadn't discovered a Tyrannosaurus skull, but I think recently they're claiming that they've discovered one at Lucy. It's 98% complete, but you can't see it. You can just see the replica, but we promise it was real. I think that's the latest one they're trying to push.
So they never claimed to find, because the more you look into dinosaurs, of course, man, the dinosaurs are for kids. They're like in kids' books. It's like a kid thing.
So is monkey men, by the way. The ape men, the Lucy ape man, the Piltdown man. You look into the history of these supposed ape-man transitional species that they've been finding since the mid-1800s. Every single one of them has been debunked, including Lucy, which is one of the latest ones. They just take a bunch of human bones and ape bones, mix them together, and they say, look, it's a Neanderthal, it's a this, it's a that, it's a Cro-Magnon. They come up with different classifications for them, and then put them on a little thing that you've all seen since you're 5 years old, a little monkey, and then you, and a bunch of nonsense in between.
There's a million questions that I got going through my head right now.
Go for it.
But I'm looking at YouTube, and some people chatting bring up some good points. And Eric a moment ago said that questioning things is like a sin. You're sort of chastised for it. And I think that no one will ever really question you questioning things and criticize you for doing it. It's those that can't do it in a rational state of mind, those that get a little bit animated. Like Alex Jones gets criticized because he gets so animated and so crazy. And, I watched the Rogan show that you guys did, and do I respect Alex Jones more? Yeah, absolutely. Because when he's calm, when he's collected and cool and comfortable and not so, not that he's not passionate, but when he can control his passion, he makes some sense, okay? I'm not going to say that he's right. I'm not going to say that he's right about everything, but he brings up a lot of things that ends up being true or plausible, or at least when he says it in a clear way with complete sentences and isn't throwing his hands up in the air and turning red in the face, it makes a bit more sense. So I think that conspiracy theorists tend to get a bad rap when they go a little bit ham, But another thing that I want to talk about the dinosaur conversation is, you say that it's they find a whale and a whale's tooth and a jawbone or whatever, and then they just assemble it. We do have DNA, right? Can we check the DNA of these bones and see if it is that of a whale, or how does that? Eric's laughing. I'm not trying to poke holes. I'm just asking questions.
No, I'm laughing because you're just giving another thing that you can't confirm for yourself, that you have to take someone else's word for, and you're like, oh, well, if somebody in a white lab coat says that this is the DNA of a dinosaur, then I guess I'll believe him. But that's not being skeptical. I don't believe DNA evidence, just like I don't believe radiocarbon dating to say that, oh, we found a rock and this rock is 2 billion years old because the radiocarbon atoms have decayed at such a rate that we know this. I have no idea how old the Earth is or how old bones are or rocks are, just like we were talking about earlier. I have no idea, and neither do the scientists, but they come up with a bunch of nonsense to make you think that they know what it came from, and then a bunch of skeptical people just believe them based on their hearsay.
Well, let me ask you this, Eric, then. What do you believe in? Do you believe in anything that anybody's ever told you, or do you only believe in things that you've researched yourself?
So that's kind of like a straw man where you're trying to categorize me as someone that doesn't believe in anything.
Not at all. I'm just saying that Eddie I accept a lot of things in life, and
nobody thinks that there's a aircraft carrier conspiracy theory because we all know aircraft carriers exist. I love that rant that he goes on, and he says a bunch of other things that we all know exist. Nobody thinks bears don't exist. We've all seen a bear. But you haven't seen a dinosaur, you haven't seen a nuclear weapon, and you haven't seen the spinning ball Earth, you haven't walked on the moon yourself, all of these things. So you're just taking an authority's word for it, and all we're saying is be skeptical.
Sure.
And while you're being skeptical, there's a bunch of evidence that's totally against the mainstream version. And while you're being skeptical and looking at that evidence, you start compiling more and more of the evidence until you become like me, and you find that you know the truth. I don't believe the Earth is flat and motionless. I know it is. Water doesn't curve around a ball. The horizon is always level. Water doesn't conform to the exterior of shapes. A negative and positive pressure system can't exist side by side without a barrier in between them. Rivers only flow downhill, but on a globe they'd be flowing in all directions. I can get, like I said, 200 proofs Earth is not a spinning ball, and that's just 200. I came up with 200 because William Carpenter came up with 100 in the 1800s, and I wanted to double it. I could come up with 400 if you gave me enough time and incentive. People are doing it right now. There's new flat Earth proofs coming up all the time because it's actual, observable, testable, repeatable, natural science that we can do ourselves. The kind of science, in quotes, that you're getting from these figureheads is not observable, testable, repeatable, natural science that you can do yourself. It's stuff that they claim that only they can do with a Hubble telescope. Only we can take CGI images of fake planets with our Hubble telescope. You can't, but you can take a regular telescope and you can see that the images they give you are complete nonsense cartoons, and what it actually looks like is, pulsating lights in the sky, as we were talking about earlier.
Right. I'm not trying to like challenge you. I'm serious in my questioning. Like, what do you choose to believe without doing research yourself on, and what don't you? Like, I mean, I've never met anyone with tuberculosis, but I believe that tuberculosis is real. Like, where do you draw the line on, like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and investigate this, or I'm not going to go ahead and investigate this?
Condemnation without investigation is the height of ignorance, said one Jew shill. And I think that, Einstein was right about that. I don't believe in anything, but I do investigate everything, and I'm skeptical. I don't just take things at face value or take somebody's word for it. I want to know for myself. And if I can't know for myself, then I will happily be in the place of not knowing, like I said about the dome or the infinite plane, for instance. I don't know, but you got a lot of people out there that need to know, that they're used to knowing answers for everything. NASA told them all the answers, or the Bible told them answers, or whatever it is, and they need to have some authority figure telling them answers, and they're going to believe that, and that makes them feel safe. But me, I'm the opposite, where I like to be skeptical, and I like to think, I don't know, and I don't think you know either. And I'm just going to be in that skeptical spot. And that's what's brought me to where I am here, where I got people asking me, why don't you believe in nuclear weapons and dinosaurs and the baller? Well, I've just been doing this thing where I don't believe whatever people tell me for a long time, and I test it for myself, and I try to figure out what I can know personally from experience for myself. And this is where I'm at right now. And I think everybody would be better off if they did that instead of just believing some authority figure that tells you you're on a spinning ball that was exploded out of a big bang and you're a monkey man that evolved. It's ridiculous, and it's obvious why they're doing it. They want you to think you're a monkey, a purposeless accident that comes from nothing. Think about it, while they steal $50 million of your tax money every day.
Seriously.
So,
hey, I believe in searching for the truth. I'm fascinated searching for the truth. Some people at night are watching boxing and kickboxing and MMA. I'm just trying to figure out the truth, sifting through YouTube videos. The funny thing is I got guys talking shit on me for getting on YouTube and watching documentaries, and then they'll send me a debunk video from YouTube. And I'm like, bro, that's YouTube. And they'll say, not all YouTube videos are created equal. I'm like, you are trying to debunk YouTube videos with YouTube videos? Don't you see what's wrong with that? It doesn't make any sense.
YouTube's not research. You didn't know?
Yeah. You got to go to the library.
Yeah.
You got to go to the library. Unless
You're not wearing a lab coat. That's not research.
Yeah, like you have to. When people talk shit, oh, what did you read that at the internet? I'm like, dude, what the fuck do you look at? Are you going to the library? Who's going to the library? When's the last time you've been in a motherfucking library? Everyone's online. Everyone's online. And then people, they love to say, oh, the computer hacker geeks, they jump on that. Hey, did you hear that scientists said that we're in a computer simulation? This could all be a computer simulation. And everyone is like, yeah. Everybody's fucking.
I saw that movie.
Everybody's into it.
It's the Matrix.
Everyone's like, yes, that's it. We're a fucking. But then you talk about flat Earth, like, you're a fucking retard.
Hey, honestly,
the same people.
Honestly,
It's
though,
crazy.
think about this. If bandwidth hadn't improved, none of this would have taken off. Seriously, because if you were on 56K modems, you're not renting these movies from the video store. Like, nobody is doing the research or getting access to the research that
Without
you would
the
need
internet.
to make. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to go ahead and really be a flat earther, like, you got to watch Eric Dubay's work. You got to do all that stuff. You got to read. You got to find this stuff. And, odds are you're not doing that, dialing into America Online and, doing all that nonsense.
There was
a
a paleontologist on Joe Rogan's podcast. He had a green beard, but he hates Eric Dubay.
Oh,
But
I saw this.
The one thing that he was like, dude, we're living in a fucking amazing point in time. All the world's knowledge, dude, you can get it on your watch. If you have an iPhone watch, it's all right there. They're like fascinated with all the world's information on a watch. And then you bring up some controversial shit that goes against his beliefs. Where'd you find that on the internet? I'm like, wait a minute, didn't you have all the world's knowledge on you? What is your phone connected to? Like a direct line into the library or something?
That dude wants to destroy Eric.
He wanted to take
he
a
wanted
base.
to wait outside with a baseball bat if I was ever on Joe's show. And Joe's like, whoa, man, you want like physical violence on the guy? Wouldn't you want to just sit down and talk to him? And he's like, no. And the reason is because he's a paleontologist, which are these people who get paid for lying about this stuff. So I'm exposing what he's lying about, and his job will be null and void once the information that I'm exposing gets out. So he's pissed off because his cushy day job is about to go bye-bye once the dinosaur hoax
He
is exposed.
doesn't have a job. He's a bartender. He's a paleontologist
We can't
with a
afford his
green goatee.
Yeah.
Dude can't do a sit-up. He doesn't give a shit about his body. His body looks like shit. He don't give a fuck about it. And he's talking about he's a paleontologist when he's a bartender. Come on, man. He can't even make money being a paleontologist. And he's like,
If he was legit paleontologist and dinosaurs existed, he would laugh me off. He would not get violent. He would not say "fuck you, Eric Dubay" and all. I mean, if I could count the times he told me to fuck myself, I'd probably be a rich man dime every time. He was pissed and wanting violence and not wanting a discussion. That was the point, is that he didn't want a discussion with me, because anything like that would just bring more attention to the information I'm exposing and would put him out of his job and make him known to be the liar that he is, and he's scared of that. And there's a lot of people that are scared of that.
And he was bragging about his license plate saying Decepticon. Remember that? He brought that shit up. Who brings up their fucking license plate on a podcast? He gets on Joe Rogan's podcast, and somehow he works into the conversation that his license plate says Decepticon, and he's like really proud of it. Like, what kind of dumbass does that?
He just wants to be recognized in traffic. That's the only reason you would give out your license plate name.
I got a question, Eddie. Now that you maybe don't believe in planets, what are you gonna do about 10th Planet Jiu-Jitsu? You can't play both sides of the table.
Hey, I'm glad you asked. Can you see my?
I saw that.
You see this?
You know, it's funny because
you see this?
Nathan told me last night.
You're not changing it, are
Do
you?
you see that?
Are you? Are you?
10th plane. That's a nice
10th plane,
I like
baby.
that.
You're gonna change
10th plane jiu-jitsu. Who cares?
Nathan told me.
Wow.
Nathan told me last night. He's like, man, it doesn't make any sense. He's got to pick one side. He can't be flat Earth and believe in planets. This is some bullshit. Get to the bottom of this.
10th plane, baby. You see the shirt?
Yeah,
this
10th
is for
plane.
real.
That's
10th
official.
plane.
That's for real.
Yeah, take the fucking.
It's
yeah.
10p. 10p could be planet or plane. Planet is old school. Hey, I'm not ashamed of believing in. You know, I used to watch stacks and stacks of space documentaries. I'll just get get my natural medicines out, and I go deep trying to remember all this shit. Like, oh, that's a neutron star. Oh shit, okay, that's what a super hypernova looks like. Oh shit, okay. Oh, that star is 700,000 light years away from that constellation. Fuck, yeah, I better remember that shit. I was all into that. I was totally into it. I was super into anything space. Are you kidding? The Science Channel? Shit. Are you kidding me? I would DVR science, anything on space. Space, just show it to me. What am I going to watch right now? The sun? Ooh, or you know what? Let's watch some shit on Jupiter. I'd watch them over and over and over again. I was so into space.
I'm not gonna lie. Neil deGrasse had me hooked on that Cosmos shows. I fucking watched everything on that show. I love that show. And then when I fucking know what I know now, I'm like, oh my God, you had me. You had me so good.
With the CGI. With all those CGI DVDs. All those DVDs. BBC, Nova, all that shit. The Morgan Freeman. Sorry, Jane. But I know you like Morgan Freeman. All that shit. You know, now it's like, fuck. That, you know what, the heliocentric model or whatever they call it now, whatever the modern day model is, that seems way crazier than we're on a flat plane. The fact that we're floating in space, spinning around the sun, and the sun has got some gravitational pull on us, and we got the gravitational pull on the moon, and there's this gravity that exists, this force that is so powerful. It holds oceans to it. It holds buildings and trains to it, but it can't fuck with a goddamn butterfly
or a fish.
That doesn't make sense. That's not science to me. When people talk about science this, science that, I go, explain to me how that is science. There's a force that's holding oceans to the goddamn planet, keeping it from spinning and flying off because it's spinning 1,000 miles an hour. But somehow, you know, everything is science on the planet or the plane or whatever the hell we're on. But as soon as we get to a certain altitude, it's all magic. It's not science. All that's magic. Us floating in space, and we're being connected to the sun. It has this force that's connecting us. That seems crazy. And we're flying through the universe, and the universe is endless. Like people say, well, if the Earth is flat, where's the edge? Like, where's the edge of this motherfucking universe?
It's infinite.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Maybe the plane's infinite. I don't know.
Sure.
If there has to be an edge to the plane, there has to be an edge to the universe. I mean, and the big. And you look back at it, the Big Bang Theory. We're gonna go on that. Something fucking exploded, and then that's how we started. Something motherfucking exploded, and then we're here. Come on.
To get all like crazy, whatever the secrets of the universe are, I'm a human being where everything has a beginning, middle, and an end. So I therefore have to think that everything has a beginning, middle, and an end. But in the grand scheme of things, just to think about the beginning, something always had to have just been, right? Like something can't create something. Something can't, like a cause and effect. Like there has to always be a cause. Therefore, there always has to be a present. Or does that make sense? Like,
yeah, I get it. Hey, man, I was violent when people brought up flat Earth to me, man. I was I was fucking pissed. I go, I'm trying to fucking get Tower 7 out, and you're coming at me with this fucking flat Earth bullshit.
Have you fully accepted it yet? Because I'm looking at that 10th plane shirt, and that Earth sure looks round.
You know what? Until I see pictures of what we're on from space, I'll never know for sure. I'm not sure. Because you know what? When it comes to those experiments, where, you know, every 8 miles or every mile it's supposed to curve. I can't really get behind that kind of stuff because if you took out all the, let's just say it was round, all right, and it was 25,000 miles in circumference, let's say, and then you took away all the water, it wouldn't be like a ball, like a straight basketball. You could, because of the mountains and the valleys and the oceans and all the deep crevices. So who knows? It's like trying to measure the curvature on the side of a mountain going down. It's like there's no curvature; it's going down. It's like it all depends on what you're on. So, measuring the curvature on water, that makes more sense to me. But when you measure, every mile is going to be this building should be underground or whatever. To me, it is, I fall to the side where it's just too, you can't see it's too close. You need to be far away. So I can't really, buy into that so much. I don't doubt it, that much. I don't know. But to me, it just always comes back to, where are the goddamn pictures of Earth from motherfucking space?
Well,
you can have all your goddamn experiments. You can have the horizon rising to eye level. I'm down with that. The eye level horizon thing, that makes a lot of sense to me. But where are the motherfucking pictures?
Let me stop you. Let me stop you for a second, because again, I didn't believe you, right? Like I still don't believe you. I think the Earth is round. So, with that said, you and I were talking about this podcast earlier this week, so I'm like, all right, I'm going to run to Google, and I'm going to Google pictures of Earth, because that exists. So if you look over here on my screen, I have it here. This is the one that I pulled up. This is from a Russian satellite, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking around, and it's interesting to me. It looks real detailed, doesn't look... like you guys say it's not real, right?
That's 100% cartoon.
All right, and that's fine.
You can you know it is, right? You know it is, right?
Why is it orange?
No, let me just explain here.
It's fake as fuck.
So I'm looking at this. I'm looking at this picture that everyone can see right now, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to zoom in here and take a look. Again, I believe that the Earth is round, but why in the hell is there a hand?
Oh no!
Why is there a Photoshop?
Why is there a hand?
Why is there a Photoshop hand on the most detailed satellite?
Well, because it's clearly Photoshop.
Of course.
A 4-year-old can tell.
Right, but again, like, the point is, this is taking off, right? This whole flat Earth thing is taking off. If you're going to post a picture up on the internet and say that it's the most detailed picture ever taken from space, don't have the grabby hand tool still on the picture.
Yeah. Well, they admit it. I mean, there's video of an artist that was assigned the job to make like a new Earth version 2 or whatever it was. He talks about using his imagination and taking these strips of data that NASA provided for him and then coming up with what he thought the Earth would look like based on these strips of data from satellites of the Earth. Come on, man. You guys, how many, 500, what is it, $50 million a day NASA gets for what? What have they provided for humanity? Space shuttles don't even go up no more. They abandoned the Saturn, the moon missions, and they trashed the Saturn rocket technology that took them there supposedly 6 times. You trash that shit. That shit don't exist. You're trying to get to the moon now. They're trying to get to the moon now. The head of NASA's in front of Congress going, we're trying to get to the moon. We need more money. Didn't we fucking go there 6 times already? Don't we already? That's science. That's science to me. Right. That's street science. That's street detective science. Wait a minute. You went 6 times from 1969 to 1972. You went 6 times, all during Richard Nixon's administration. Right. The first time we went to the moon, right in the middle of Vietnam? Right in the middle of the Vietnam War? We're going to go to the fucking moon? Come on. Come on, is that a coincidence that right in the middle, in 1969, right in the middle, the height of the Vietnam War,
right,
we go to the fucking moon, the greatest achievement of mankind? Come on, that seems like, and all 6 missions were during Nixon's administration, the most crooked one of the most crooked motherfuckers out there. Come on, that's just like that's a shitty detective who is partially retarded from Iceland would have questions. You know what I mean? Come on. And now it's 2017, and the head of NASA is begging Congress for money because they got to get to the moon, and they're going to figure it out as soon as they figure out how to get through the Van Allen radiation belts. As soon as they didn't you guys do that 6 times already and no one died? It took 4 days to get there and back. They're taking shits in their suits and everything's fine.
How many
Everything's
countries? How many other countries have claimed to go to the moon?
None.
No one else has gone to the moon.
None.
Russia never made it to the moon.
Nope.
Interesting.
Nobody.
They claim to have flew by and they take a bunch of fake CGI pictures. China, and they're way worse than NASA's too. If anyone wants to have a good time, check out China's or Japan's moon images. They're even worse cartoons than NASA provides.
So again, I brought this up as a hypothetical, and obviously it's not going to happen. But SpaceX says that they're going to take 2 people around the dark side of the moon next year.
That's bullshit.
Right.
Because the guy from Virgin Atlantic, what's his name? Something Branson. What's his name?
Yeah.
He was supposed to do that. He was supposed to take people to the moon.
Lance Bass was supposed to go up into space.
And then
Remember that?
now Elon Musk is supposed to do this. Right. Come on.
So I'm curious, Eric Dubay, if someone calls you up and says SpaceX wants to bring you to the dark side of the moon,
they'll kill him.
They'll just take him.
That's what I was thinking.
well, wouldn't that be? I mean,
Why would I
come
trust,
on.
You lost
why would
him.
I trust these people to put me in a rocket?
All right.
Yo, hey, Eric, what happened? There's a conspiracy theory that one space shuttle that blew up in 1986, and there's a conspiracy theory that says that no one actually died, that those people are still alive. Have you ever looked into that?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I mean, there's people using the exact same names, and they look exactly like those people that were on board the Challenger. And a lot of them, they use their same names, and they have teaching jobs. And I haven't looked into it too much, but people have looked into it more than me, and they're convinced that these people are, not only did they not die, but they're still alive using their same names. And you can see modern photographs of them, and they look like 30-year-older versions of the people.
They could be photoshopped, though. I've seen the pictures. It could easily be photoshopped. Like, that could be a hoax conspiracy theory that, who knows? Because they don't, really, the people at the top don't have any problem blowing people up and killing them. You know what I mean? So I don't know about that one, because they always use the same pictures of what they look like now, and they could easily be photoshopped. Photoshop Steve, he could do that shit easily. So I don't know. That could easily be a fake hoax or a distraction hoax. But Eric, what do you think of? What was the purpose of going from Saturn V rocket technology, taking people to the moon 6 times, and then downgrading to the space shuttle for a while? What the fuck was up with the space shuttle? I don't get it. What did we learn from it? What benefit did we get from putting people on a space shuttle?
Well, they convinced everybody that we live on a spinning ball and that we've been to the moon, so they don't have to go back there and do any more reconvincing, because all that would do is make people even more skeptical than they might have been ahead of time. So the propaganda is complete. They put a bow on it, and now they don't want to go back there. They don't want to give you the original tapes because they don't have them, apparently. And why would we have? The technology that supposedly sent men to the moon was worse than a Nintendo Game Boy. So a Game Boy put us on the moon, but nowadays with our smartphones, we can't get there again. They say that they're developing technologies, and with the Van Allen belt, the astronauts even said, "How are you able to pass the Van Allen belt?" I forget which one of them said it, but he said, "Well, it hadn't been discovered at that time."
Yeah.
So that was an explanation for how they were able to pass it, was because they hadn't discovered it. So since it hadn't been discovered, they were able to pass through.
Yeah, there's a video too that I forget what video it is, but it's a compilation of a bunch of astronauts, including Neil Armstrong, and they're going back and forth on what space looks like outside of Earth's low orbit, and half of them say you can't see the stars. It's super dark. It's the deepest dark. You can't see any stars. And Neil Armstrong, he said it's dark as hell. On the moon, you can't see any stars. It's really dark. And in Earth's orbit, you can't see anything. It's really dark. And then and then a couple other guys say the same thing. And then 3 other astronauts say it's so bright you can't even make out the constellations. It's such a white, bright light in space. The stars are, without the Earth's atmosphere to filter out some of the light. Oh, it's magnificent. It's just, the universe is just this white, glowing ball of light everywhere. Have you seen this?
Yep. Absolutely, yeah. Their own statements have changed from astronaut to astronaut. The statements change, and you can even see statements that have changed from one astronaut from when he started lying to recently when the lie comes out.
So, what do you think about? There was during during the space race when they were trying to figure out how they were going to get to the moon, there was a bunch of astronauts that died, right? A couple of them because they doubted that we could even go.
Yeah, like eight astronauts died in 1967 alone when they were just like getting this whole thing ready. What it seems to me is that they were trying to find the right people to pull off the hoax, and they picked some. Well, I mean, like what's his name? Grissom. He was a whistleblower, and he was saying there's no way we're going to get to the moon. Just a couple of weeks before they supposedly went to the moon. A couple of years rather before they went to the moon, he was saying that there's no way we can get to the moon. We can't even get a phone call between Houston and where they were doing the takeoffs from, and the delay was very long. Yet supposedly when they did get to the moon, there's like no delay. They're like supposedly 300,000 miles away, and they're instant communication, just like with their satellites that are supposedly many more millions of miles away, but they're sending us through their million-mile internet connection. They're able to send us these pictures of our whole galaxy or of Pluto or whatever, and then you look at the picture of Pluto, and it's got Pluto, the Disney dog's face, fucking right in the thing. You look at the most recent picture of Pluto, and there's Disney Pluto. Or you look at one of the blue marble images, and in a cloud, it says the word sex clearly. Or other images, you can see copy-pasted clouds where they've just pasted the exact same cloud pattern in different places on their ball Earth. Or you look at the size of continents on the different pictures they show you, and you can see America is visibly half the size of America on their image from the next year. Or you look at the clouds in their videos, and the clouds don't change shape. You'll see the exact same cloud patterns for 24 hours. Or you look at the color of the water and the color of the land masses, and those are changing from picture to picture. I mean, it's such obvious nonsense. There's only so many times I can say it.
What do you think about how there's a live feed from the International Space Station of it kind of shows like, the Earth is you kind of see the curvature. Obviously, it looks fake as hell. But there's people think that shit's real. They go, look, they send me links. Look, you could live images or a live feed from the International Space Station.
If people didn't know who George Clooney and Sandra Bullock were, you could convince them that shit was NASA, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Gravity.
Yeah.
It's right there. Right there on everyone's screen now.
Yeah, is that fake. Live?
That's live, yeah.
Live fake, yeah. And it goes
See,
off.
look, it's curved. We solved the problem. This is how the show ends.
That's it.
It's curved.
Mm-hmm. We got a live feed of the Earth.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm glad
it's always cloudy too. It's like completely filled with clouds. Yeah, GoPro lens. And it's always cloudy as fuck. Mm-hmm. Look at that. Imagine the storms in there. You can't see shit.
Why is nothing moving? Live.
Oh, look.
They've never they never I talked about this earlier, but you would think if these people up in the International Space Station, they would have like little iPhones, just videotaping all sorts of random little home video type stuff. But everything you see, it's that one shot where they got like marbles that they're throwing up and they're floating. It's always that one. Their hair is like really freaked out too. But they never have any random footage of like looking out the window of the space station and going, hey, like selfie, and then looking out. There's never any of that. It's controlled images like that live feed. It's always the same thing. You see the same type of view of the Earth, and then you see that little satellite thing on the side. That makes it official. Look, there's a little satellite thing on the side. Or you see the same thing. You never see anybody panning around or doing like a complete 360 with the video. It's always the same shit.
Isn't there space junk too? Shouldn't we see some like just nonsense floating around out there a little bit too? Maybe, I don't know.
Satellites?
Yeah.
I'm done with
no satellites or space junk in there.
I'm flat earthed out. I believe
all right, hey, Eric, we're going to wrap this up, and I want to thank you for being courageous, and I'm sure that you're safe in Thailand, but
we're over here.
Yeah. Hey, we're probably going to get fucked with now.
You're all crazy if that's the case. I'm the only sane one in the room.
Yeah. I'll just say Eric said it. I was just I'm just a host.
People want to know if you're going to do this again. They're loving it. So
absolutely, we barely scratched the surface, especially on like nuclear energy and stuff. And like people think, well, what about the nuclear power plants? The power plants that blow up, that's for real. And if you look into the whole nuclear hoax, you want to get into that? Want to close with that? Like, what about nuclear power plants? And what about Chernobyl and Fukushima? Like, if nuclear bombs don't exist, explain that.
Well, those aren't nuclear bombs. Those are nuclear power plants. And as you've said before, I recommend everyone check out Galen Windsor, who's the guy that built many of the nuclear power plants around America. And he's one of the leading nuclear physicists of his time. And he spent the latter part of his life doing a lecture circuit where he exposed that nuclear energy is fake and it doesn't exist, and that basically nuclear power plants are the most expensive way to boil water. They're essentially steam plants, and the characteristic towers that are outside of nuclear power plants are just steam towers. And he would eat radioactive waste and swallow it, and he would swim in it too. But he'd eat it, and he'd put it on a Geiger counter to show everyone, and put it on his tongue and swallow it and show his tongue again, put the Geiger counter on his tongue, showing that he is ingesting radioactive waste. And he did this for years and years in front of audiences to show that the stuff is not harmful to the human body. But yet, again, they take millions of dollars from us to dispose of this nuclear waste they say is so volatile that they have to dig hundreds of feet down into the bedrock and take the nuclear waste and like put it in little capsules and drill it down there so that it doesn't affect us.
And we pay for it.
Yet at Chernobyl, where there's supposedly a nuclear power plant explosion, there's people that have never left there and are still alive. They were there when the meltdown happened, and they're still there now. Just like I said about Nagasaki and Hiroshima, the plants, the people, everything kept growing. And they stayed there. But it's funny, you can see pictures of people who have lived in Chernobyl their whole life, and right next to them will be a government scientist, and he's totally decked out with, not an inch of his body. It's not covered in some sort of space age silver type suit. Meanwhile, you got some like 70-year-old grandma just doing just fine there, watering her garden, looking at the spectacle. The scientists claiming that, wear our hazmat suits in Chernobyl because of all the radiation. But it's not. There's no radiation.
Why do they have to evacuate the cities? Is that because they got to keep people afraid of nuclear power and the word nuclear? They just got to make sure anything that's attached to nuclear, to keep that nuclear bomb scare going and the fear going, that when these nuclear power plants, like when there's an accident, like there's coal power plants blow up too. Like all power plants have accidents and blow up, but they have to evacuate the cities, like in Chernobyl, just to sell the whole nuclear bomb thing, right? Am I just jumping to conclusions?
I don't know exactly, the motive or, Chernobyl and Fukushima and the exact timeline and how or why they would have done it. But surely if you're doing a hoax, then you need to update it periodically. So back in the 50s, you're having people hide under their desks because they think Russia's going to launch a nuke or whatever. Now in 2010s, you've got to say that your food is coming from Fukushima and the food is bad, and Alex goes on about that forever too. They've got all these other conspiracies that you get all hyped up about, and you think Fukushima, we got to be worried about that. It's killing all the life in the oceans and all this. Meanwhile, people, meat eaters just eat 10 billion land animals a year anyway. So the animals are dying anyway because of carnivores, carnism. Yet people are so concerned about Fukushima radiation, like that's killing off the animals or something. So they've always got a red herring, they call it. They've always got to focus your attention to their semi-conspiracies or their little things that they want to draw your attention to, so that they keep your eyes off of the real thing. So sure, mine and other people's evidence of the nuclear hoax was coming out right about the time Fukushima came out. Just like, the week I put out my Gravity Does Not Exist video, they came out and they said, NASA's discovered gravitational waves. And they're literally playing to the tune of flat earthers at this point, where they come out with a damage. Kyrie Irving and the basketball players came out, and then the next Monday, Neil deGrasse Tyson's on the Joe Rogan Experience. The next Tuesday, NASA comes out. They found 7 more Earth-like planets. They just got to keep updating the propaganda so that people who are starting to wake up don't awaken fully. Because once you awaken fully, none of this shit is nobody's gonna be able to show you another CGI planet and have you think that it's real ever again in your life. Nobody's gonna be able to show a spinning ball Earth with clouds that don't move and sex written in them and have you think that that's a legitimate photograph. They don't want. This is why the gatekeepers are so important. They don't want you to go all the way through the gauntlet to the end of the conspiracy truth, because then nobody can bullshit you anymore. They got to keep you corralled and believing this or that authority figure who tells you this or that supposed fact that you can't check for yourself.
That was beautiful, Eric. Let's end on that. Thank you very much, Eric. We're going to do this again. We got to do a part 2. I just got to relax for a little bit. And
Relax.
let's end on that note, man.
Yeah.
That was awesome, man. I feel that you coming on we definitely didn't plan this. This was just all from yesterday.
Yeah.
Had no goddamn idea that this was going to happen. And, you make me look less crazy. I make you look less crazy.
Yeah,
it's
the
symbiotic.
plan. It's part of the plan.
Hey, Jesus. Eric, you still there?
I'm still here, Eddie.
Oh, man, I hope we didn't bore you with all that MMA talk and stuff. But I want to
Not
thank.
at all. I'm a big fan of both you and Crone. I love what you guys are doing.
Appreciate
Eddie Bravo Invitational and Rubber Guard and everything you've developed with jiu-jitsu, and of course Hickson's a legend and Crone is as well. I was excited when I heard Crone was here. That's cool.
Yeah.
It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too, man. I really appreciate it.
It's a beautiful thing, man. I'm going to be out in Singapore May 21st to May 20, that whole week for a super camp, teaching 2 classes a day, Monday through Friday. And then that Saturday is a 1FC show. It's going to be an awesome week. I'm going to be out there 7 days. I'm going to be in Korea for the weekend before, but who knows, man? Maybe Eric will make his way out to Singapore and we'll hang out and we'll do like something in person. I don't know how close you are to Singapore. You're pretty close, right? Isn't that like a 2-hour flight?
It's pretty close.
Okay.
I haven't gotten on a plane across the border for a while, though. I keep a pretty low profile.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, you probably need to stay in Thailand until this flat Earth dust settles.
Are you in Thailand because you just didn't want to live here in America, or why was there a reason to go into Thailand?
My best friend since high school was a Thai guy, and I'd gotten into Thai culture, and I'd visited Thailand. And originally, I was going to teach English and go like country to country. That was my idea. And I started as an English teacher, but I just fell in love with the country, and I've been here for 13 years now.
Yeah, it's like when you go to Thailand, man. I've been there once, and there's just a bunch of dudes from like England and Australia. They come like 15 packs, and they're like, dude, we're not leaving. Fuck that. They all try to get jobs there teaching English. Like, fuck that. They're treated like, if you're white and you go to Thailand, man, you're a rock star basically. Right, Eric?
Yeah, in some ways. Yeah, definitely. There's that.
Especially if you do martial arts too. Oh man. Forget about it. I get it, Eric. We're all human here, and we all have needs. I get it. I'm with you. But Eric, thanks. Hey, we're gonna do this again. We're gonna do part 2, Flat Earth part 2. I don't know when, but we'll do it. Crone will be back. James will be back. TJ will be back. We'll do it all again. Thank you guys for putting up with the bad Skype connection. I apologize for that, man. We put together this podcast, Radio Shack, Cracker Jack style.
Hey, think about it, though. Think about what we're doing here. Like beaming across the other, further
Beaming
along the planet.
Yeah.
All right, but you know what I mean? Like,
Totally.
come on. This
we
is
should have
pretty
kept
big.
it. We should have kept it just audio from the get go.
You gotta. What did Fedor say? You gotta fall before you can stand back up.
Yeah,
You gotta make
yeah.
mistakes. You
Yeah.
gotta iron them out.
Exactly. Eric, thank you again. Crone, James, TJ, see ya.